Tonight's June 2nd, 2015 council meeting is Cynthia Vargas or Jesus Villegas from Davis Elementary. Are you here? Please come forward, and if you can bring the microphone right down to wherever you need it. And I'm going to turn things over to you at this time for the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody could please stand.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council member, and members of the public. Our names are Jesus Villegas
and Cynthia Vargas. At this time, we would like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and place your right hand over your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. If you can remain standing, Gary Tucker, our police chaplain, is going to give us our invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The inspiration for some of the thoughts in the prayer tonight come from the Do It Anyway prayer written on the wall in Mother Teresa's home for children in Calcutta. Let us pray. Dear God, we give thanks for another day. Bless the mayor, the city council members, and all their families. Give them attentive hearts and open minds, that through diversity of ideas, they might sort out what is best for Santa Ana. Honesty and frankness may make them vulnerable. Let them be honest and frank anyway. Let them give the best they have. It will never be enough. Let them give their best anyway. The good they do today might be forgotten tomorrow. Let them do good anyway. And may they continue to do things to make Santa Ana a better place to live and work, shop and dine, play and pray. And all God's people said, Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Bruce Marsh, I believe you are here. And Nasim, Jenny Lee, if you're here with them, please step forward as well. Come around this way. Come around this way. Stand right here a little closer, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Exceptional Service Award because we have a real success story here in Santa Ana. Let me tell you a little bit about why we're here. Armed with a dream to create a better food culture in Orange County, Bruce Marsh and his wife, Nasim Afkian, who's a Santa Ana native, partnered with Jenny Lee to open this restaurant called the Little Sparrow Cafe. It's a French-inspired bistro in downtown Santa Ana, and they opened it up back in the spring of 2013. It seems like only yesterday. The Little Sparrow, a true American success story, because with no formal restaurant business training, a Kickstarter campaign, the owners converted a formerly vacant cafe space right there on the corner of Main and 3rd into an award-winning culinary hotspot with a unique classical neighborhood feel. Bruce and Nasim felt that the location at 3rd and Main had good bones and character. They also desired to bring back that bistro feeling that they experienced in Paris and New York and San Francisco, and they wanted people to make it feel like a neighborhood. The Little Sparrow Cafe has received tremendous recognition since its beginning. Bravo TV, for example, named it one of the best restaurants in the United States for 2015. Orange Coast Magazine recognizes it the Restaurant of the Year in 2014. Orange County Weekly voted Little Sparrow as the best Sunday brunch in 2013. And the Orange County Register named it as one of the top restaurants in Orange County. Now, keep in mind, all these awards within a matter of 2 years, and really, I think, a little bit less than that. Little Sparrow is a unique cafe offering weekly happenings such as Wine Wednesday, Sunday brunch, late night happy hour. By day, Little Sparrows caters to guests as a casual, light atmosphere. By night, the restaurant transformed into a more formal, romantic atmosphere. I ended the formal portion, by the way. That wasn't in here. I know you're probably, because we got this most from you, right? Or did we do this ourselves? We did it? Little Sparrow's name is inspired by the sparrow's mother and nurturing symbol in mythology, and also by French World War II singer Edith Piaf, nicknamed La Moine Piaf, or the Little Sparrow in English. And I know that when I've been there, you often have her singing in the background. It's really, really beautiful. The Little Sparrow's innovations and commitment to the community enhances the quality of life in Santa Ana, brings vibrancy to the downtown area, and I think serves as an ambassador to the city and to the county and beyond. I know I've had guests and folks come down and talk about just how beautiful the Little Sparrow is. And to me, part of the real beauty is the way they retained so much of the architecture and the feel, yet you made it feel new and fresh and alive. And in terms of the food, it really is very, very fine food. Doesn't matter what you pick on the menu, they are doing very well. And look, you did this really on a dream and a lot of work. A dream and a lot of work. Before I present a recognition, would any of you like to say a few words? Bruce? Here, right here.
Thank you. There's a couple familiar faces out there, some regulars in the restaurant who've come down to see this and other stuff. But Santa Ana was a dream in a lot of ways. Nassim brought us back here from New York City, and we've just found an amazing community downtown that's welcomed us, that's come into our doors, and that says kind of fallen in love with our food. Thank you for everybody for coming in. Hopefully we'll see. If you haven't been in, what are you waiting for? Come on down.
Why don't y'all get a little closer? I'm going to present this to the three of you and just say that this is a proclamation that it's my honor to present to you on behalf of the City Council. And as mayor, I want to present this to you for your service and commitment to the community of Santa Ana, outstanding contributions that you're making throughout the county. And also, I believe you guys are residents, and that's a beautiful, and you as well. All three of them are Santa Ana residents, and a true success story. Congratulations. Please keep up the great work. Thank you.
Let's
take a photo. Somebody here from the Orange County Fire Authority? I want to turn the microphone over for a moment because we're here to talk about the Fire Authority's drowning prevention campaign, and as soon as, in a moment, I'll make a presentation. Please go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. To the Mayor and City Council, thank you very much for having me here tonight and for kicking off the proclamation and our drowning prevention campaign that we do each year. Every year, the Orange County Fire Authority, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, we run our campaign to prevent drowning. Every year, we work to reduce the drownings in our communities. Unfortunately, last year, we saw an increase in our drownings. So this year, we're even more aggressively going after it. There's several things we're doing in the city of Santa Ana this year and throughout all of Orange County, but specifically in the city of Santa Ana, we're starting off by doing some PSAs that we've made. Last year we had a PSA that we ran in the city. This year we're doing it in English, we're doing it in Spanish, we're doing it in Mandarin, we're doing it in Vietnamese. We're playing it on Channel 3 on every Saturday afternoon. We're playing it at the movie theater in the Main Place Mall, and we're playing it on the website, with Orange County Fire Authority and through the city's website if you hit the fire department page as far as the link. Other than that, we're also working, we've got vehicle signage, and every fire apparatus throughout Orange County, regardless of the agency, has a big sticker on the side reminding all of our residents not to swim alone and to help prevent drowning. So that doesn't matter what agency you work for, every fire agency in Orange County has that sign attached to the side of it. We're trying to raise that public awareness. In addition to that, we're also doing community outreach through our partners in the city to get to our local community organizations. But one of the biggest things that we did this year that hopefully we're going to get this to spark a campaign throughout the whole county. But in the city of Santa Ana, we're working with local businesses where we had $10,000 donated, and we're working with the Australian Swim School, and we're offering free swim lessons to approximately 200 children and 100 adults. And we're doing that outreach through Head Start and through the Orange County Nurses Home Nursing Association to help get that word out and get some folks that don't know how to swim, teach them how to swim. But whether you know how to swim or not, it doesn't matter as long as you stay out of the water unless there's somebody there with you, because you should never be swimming alone. So that's our kickoff campaign for this year, and I want to thank you very much for supporting it.
Chief, I want to basically state that I know that we've had people drown in as little as 2 inches of water, so it doesn't take much water. Also, it can be very, very quickly. You know, try stopping breathing for a while and you drown very fast. So, you know, for your efforts here in the drowning prevention awareness, you know, all the work you can do, it's all much appreciated. And I know that we've saved a lot of kids because of that. Kids seem to be more apt to drown than adults, but adults are also potential victims. So, you know, thank you for your work, and we'll continue to work with you to make sure we go through this summer season with, hopefully, with not a single incident. That would be our goal. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn things over to Councilwoman Michelle Martinez, please.
Good evening. If I could please have Alex join me. As Alex Flores joins me, and I have, you know, they always give us talking points. I certainly don't need talking points for this young man. You know, it's bittersweet, you know. Alex Flores is, you know, I love this young man as my son. I've mentored him for the past 9 years. And I truly believe that this young man, I thought he would be taking my place up here on this dais in 2018. But he's decided to leave to Boston. And so, you know, this young man has a tremendous future. I truly believe the great work that he has done here in the city of Santa Ana, not just the work that he's done up here with many of us as elected officials and really trying to push youth issues, but his work and his commitment, whether it been at the Santa Ana Unified School District or the Rancho Santiago Community College District. He served as the president there, and as well, he served on the Oversight Bond Committee. And so, you know, someone that started at a fairly young age of wanting to be civically engaged, this young man represents, I truly believe he represents everything that we have always wanted in someone young to really get involved and engage within their community, and Alex certainly did that. Something that is most important is that as we move forward in trying to engage people here in our community, and we tend not to speak about it much, because, you know, there's sometimes conflicts of interest, but, you know, I'm on my last term, so I could say as much as I want about voting, because you won't be voting for me here in the city of Santa Ana again, but is that he was able to register thousands and thousands of people here in Santa Ana and in Orange County through the work that he did over the years with Cal Voter. And when we ask in our community, one, as elected officials going door to door, to ask people to register to vote, sometimes they just shut the door in our face. So we know that it's not an easy job. And so for he to be able to do that for so many years really has not only helped the city of Santa Ana, but has helped all of Orange County. I personally, Alex, just want to say, that I want to wish you the best in Boston as you leave in a couple of days. You personally have impacted my life. For those of you who don't know me, I rarely use the word I love you, and I rarely trust people. But I love this young man, and I trusted him with my life. And I can't say that with 5 people. He's one of those 5 people that I can say that I've trusted and I've loved, and I became a better person and a better elected official. And having this young man push me every single day to do what's right and to work in the best interests of all residents in the city of Santa Ana, and to also work with all my colleagues. Even though there were times where I always told Alex, look, you're just your mentor. You're going to make decisions and you're going to make choices that I may not like. But you're a grown man. You're going to make those decisions. And, he made them. And people were like, oh, my God, I thought Alex Flores was with you all the way. But I always told him, as my mentor always told me, who was Mark Press, I wouldn't be up here today if I didn't have a mentor like Mark Press. He always told me, Michelle, I'm only here to guide you and give you advice. It is up to you to either use it to your advantage, or you could go in your own way and learn. And there were times where I didn't want to learn. I would take his guidance. And there were days where I just wanted to rebel. And one of those days was when I decided to run for the city council. And I mentioned this because I ran against one of my mentor's best friends, Fortino Rivera. And I remember Mark Press telling me at 24 years old, Michelle, you are crazy. I'm going to advise you not to run for the city council. You have no chance in winning. Fortino is born and raised in Santa Ana. He's been involved and engaged. That was the one time that I actually went against Mark Press, and I actually won the election. And he came here when I got sworn in, and he said, Michelle, I'm glad you didn't take my advice. And I've always said that to Alex. There are going to be times where I'm going to share things with you where we're not going to agree. And it's up to you if you want to take my advice or not. But you, in your own way, Alex, have become an exceptional young man. And I think many of us up here and many people in the community could attest to that. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership at Santa Ana College, what you've done here in the city of Santa Ana. Wish you the best in Boston. And of course, you still have a family here in Santa Ana. You could always count on us. But I'm certain that you're going to have much success in Boston. And with that being said, I do have a lot of whereases, but if you would like to make a couple of comments before I present you with the proclamation.
Sure. Well, thank you, Michelle and Mayor and the entire City Council. It's like Michelle said, she's been my mentor, she's been my friend, and I'm very thankful for that. If it wasn't for Michelle, I wouldn't have pushed myself as much as I did, and I continue to do that. But I'm pretty sure I'll be back by 2018 when Ward 2 is vacant. So, I might be back. But a leader is one that can empower people. And Michelle is definitely a leader because she's empowered me. She's not a leader where I follow her. She's a leader because she empowers me to make my own decisions, to push myself, and to create that same leadership for others. And so for that, I'm very grateful, and I really want to thank you for all your work that you have done with me. Thank you.
So as you know, we don't do all the whereases because there's always a lot of whereases, but I will just read what some of the stuff that I did mention without my notes or the proclamation, and that's whereas Alex served as the Orange County District Director for CalVoter, a voter registration drive that was responsible for registering over 10,000 voters in 2014. He also served as the member of 2 local bond oversight committees, Measure Q for the Rancho Santiago Community College District and Measure G for the San Unified School District. These committees ensure that all revenues generated by the bond measure are spent and described by the ballot measure, and whereas Alex's passion to help others by volunteering his time and energy and reaching out to those less fortunate is to be commended and recognized. And now, therefore, the mayor and the city council declare June 2nd as Alex Flores Day.
Now, Madam City Clerk, is there anything City Attorney, anything to report out of closed session, please?
No, Mayor, we had several closed session items, but there's no reportable action this evening.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to call a few speakers now and then a few speakers later. So let me start with George Garcia, please. George, are you here? All right, George, since you don't want to speak, that's okay. We're not going to take it personal. All right, keep coming, George. I see. I'm just giving you a hard time. And after that, Linda Lou Keston, I believe it is. Go ahead. Just go ahead. It's green. You want him to start over? All right, start over. Start the green. Turn it off. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, Chief Rojas, Big Dave, City Manager, and this City Attorney.
You forgot the clerk.
Clerk, Madam Clerk, I just wanted to say that these are hard times, and our country has been infiltrated by ISIS sympathizers, and it's time that we start putting our resources with the police department. I oppose what President Obama has done to withdraw the funds, and so everything that we can do as city members, we wish to support the police department in any way we can. So with that, I also wanted to bring up the water drought, but that's on 75B. Is that correct, Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Linda, are you here? Yes. Please come on down, Linda. And then after Linda, if you could please come to the first row, Mike Fernandez. Mike, if you can be on standby, come on down. And then after that, Darrell White. No, Darrell White, you're on another item. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I was concerned, everybody in the neighborhood was concerned, about Edison cutting off the power on June the 9th for the whole day between the hours of 9 and 4. The city clerk said since it wasn't sent out by the city of Santa Ana that you guys had nothing to do with it. But what I'd like to say is there's many people in the neighborhood who they might speak Spanish, but they don't read Spanish. And, you know, there's many elderly people that are going to be affected by a whole day of no electricity. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but I attached it to my speaking request. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. And maybe Mr. City Manager, maybe we can just contact Edison. I'm sure they have a good outreach program. I'm sure this power outage for maintenance purposes is needed, but maybe we can just make sure that folks get more than the one single notice.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Tina Flores, Mike Fernandez followed by Tina Flores. Mike, are you here? Okay, Tina, if you could come down and sit where Mike was, and then after that, Patty Mejia. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Council, Mayor, staff, and everybody. My name is Mike Fernandez. I'm here to speak about the Warner Street Widening Project. I'm representing my 81-year-old parents who will have their home taken away if this project goes through. Our family has lived in this home for 60 years. My wife and I moved to this neighborhood so that we could care for my parents so they can remain in their home for the remaining years. Both of my parents have health issues. My mother had a stroke and relies mainly on a wheelchair to get around, and my father has had several strokes and has memory issues as a result. But they are able to live in their own home because they are in a familiar environment. My father walks to CVS, Wells Fargo Bank, and the Pandaria on Warner and Bristol. I'm certain if they are moved from their home, they will deteriorate quickly. So before you guys make a final decision on the project, take a look at the family community that you might be removing. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Tina, are you here? After that, Patty, you're where you should be sitting. And Rosa Martinez, if you can come sit right next to Patty, please. You'll be next after that. Please go ahead, Tina.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Tina Flores, and I am here to voice my concerns about the Warner Avenue widening project. As a homeowner in this neighborhood, I'm very concerned about how this project is going to affect all of us. And I understand the desire to widen Warner Avenue and improve traffic flow. However, I don't think this plan is going to accomplish any of that. So let's imagine Warner Avenue has been widened. You're driving down Warner, it's nice and wide, you've got your 3 lanes, but you want to go west, So as you're driving west, you come up to Main Street, and Main Street is backed up, as it always is. There's traffic. So you decide, you know what, I'm going to skip Main Street, I'll go a little farther down Warner. The road narrows, so you have to merge. So then you get to Flower. You think, well, I'll turn on Flower. However, Flower Street is backed up even worse because the parents are picking up their kids from the after-school program at Washington Elementary. So then you think, well, maybe I'll just keep going until I get to Bristol. It's way out of my way, but I'll do that. It might be faster. Well, the light turns green and you can't even get through the intersection because the traffic on Flower is backed all the way up through the intersection. So let's imagine we're going the opposite direction, trying to get home to our resident. So you're going east on Warner. Again, you come up to Main Street, it's backed up. You think, okay, I'll just go a little farther. But once you pass Main Street on Warner, the only 2 places you can make a left are on Maple Street and Standard. So if you make a left on Maple, this is a really small residential neighborhood. There's not even a dividing line on this street. All the residents park on the street. So let's imagine you're slowly making your way down Maple, and you finally get to the first intersection, Annahurst. It's a 2-way stop. All the residents are parked along the street. You can't even see clearly to see oncoming traffic. I don't want to have to deal with this kind of mess. If you want to improve traffic issues, come up with a better plan. And if you're going to do that, let's try and have something that makes it worthwhile. Do we really need to take away 30 homes from people? It's not worth it. Come up with something better before you spend $55 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty, come on down, followed by Rosa. And after that, Madeline Spencer, if you could please come on down, Madeline. Please go ahead, Patty.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Patty Mejia. I live on Holiday at 2244 here in Santa Ana. I just want to let you know that we came out here in 1959. My parents brought me out here. I was raised out here in Santa Ana, and the thing is that I understand now they want to widen the street out and make widen the street out on Warner where I live at. I had moved out to Moreno Valley in 1999. I lived there for 13 years because I couldn't afford to live here in Santa Ana. And after a while, the market value went up where I was able to sell my home in Moreno Valley, and then I was finally able to come back to Santa Ana and live here comfortably where I love and I was actually raised at. But now, you know what, you want to take my home away, and at the same time while you're trying to do this, I also have my daughters living with me with my beautiful grandchildren, and I'm also helping my brother and his wife with me too. But the city here, they want to give us like unfair market value, and I hopefully hope that they give us market value for the home that I live in. And that's all I can say. I also want to say on behalf of the people in the neighborhood too that didn't come out here to speak, that they feel the same way I do too, and I'm sure they have families living with them that they cannot afford to live here in Santa Ana purchased a home, but the thing is that some of them been living there for many years, and now, the city wants to take their home. So not only are you going to destroy these people that you're taking their homes, but you're displacing them and they don't know where they're going, just like I don't either. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down, Patty. Rosa, Madeline, you're still sitting back there. I see you. Come on down. And then Angelica Higarea after Madeline. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pulido, council members. My name is Rosie Montañez. I'm the co-chair of the Delhi Neighborhood Association since 1999. I started the association with Vivian, Joanne Padilla. At first, we were just 10 members. We have over 200 members on our list now. And I am here as a representative of the Neighborhood Association to demand a 6-month delay on the Warner widening project on behalf of my community. My family came to the Delhi area since the early 1920s, and as a member of this community, I want my neighbors to have a fair chance to be part of the process, and that is why I want a 6-month delay.
Thank you for coming down, Rosa. Madeline, followed by Angelica, followed by Rick Niedermeyer. And Rick, if you could come on down, please. You're already there. Go ahead.
Good evening, council and city staff. I brought this just to print out, which I'm sure all of you have probably seen before, but I just wanted to give it to you again. And it shows all of the merged project plans for the city that are upcoming and that are going on currently. The Warner widening project is just one of many. And I just want to mention that we're watching the track record of this city and the way that they treat the Bristol Street merchants, the way that they treat the 4th Street merchants when they have a transit line going down with their EIR, the way that you guys treated South Main in the past, the way that you have treated the Logan neighborhood when it had to fight to get a highway not put through their area, and the way that the Harbor Corridor plan is going to go, as well as Washington Street and Grand Avenue, by the way, which is the next section, is all residential. And I want you to know that every single one of those places, their residents are going to know, just like Warner Corridor, to make sure that the city is paying them not only fair market value for their houses if they're going to take them, but they're also going to make sure to pay them equal for what they have. Right now, our job in Equity for All is going to be to mitigate the harm and anti-displacement of all the projects going on in this city. And so I'm just letting you all know that right now. And tonight, you have a group here of family members. And somebody told me the other day, Sarmiento, you live in that area, and they're like, let's trade homes, and let's see how it feels to have your whole family impacted and have to move out of its home that it's been there for a long time. There's people who have been there since the 30s. That's a lot. People have come out in Floral Park because of rangers, and that's important to them. This is your whole life, your whole family. Moving, it's everything. It's a big deal. And they should be at the negotiating table, and they should know every step of the way what's going to happen to them.
Thank you. And Angelica, followed by Rick.
Good evening. I'm Angelica's husband. She's...
Go ahead.
So I'm also a part of the widening of Warner. We just bought the house about a year and a half ago. Well, the market was where we can afford and now we're told that it's going to be torn down to make the street more wider. It's not a Floral Park house, but it's a great community. It's shocked to hear that it's going to be happening. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. And maybe I could ask through the city manager if council agrees that, look, I'm sure we're going to have a community meeting out there, maybe explain the process to folks. I know that the court's going to assure that everybody gets fair market value, and there's already an EIR. Please.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, it's important that we explain the process, but and Rick, if you give us just a second, just because there were a lot of speakers here, and we don't want any inaccurate information to be spoken here, because a lot of folks just come up and get riled up and they don't understand what the law requires. Madam City Attorney, you know that there is no way that the law will require anything but fair market value to be paid for any property that's taken under the Fifth Amendment, right? So the takings clause requires us, by constitutional right, nothing that we have any discretion over, but if there is some displacement, that there does have to be not only fair market value paid, but there's also relocation cost, travel cost, all these costs that have to be done. This isn't the only widening project in the city. There's a widening project taking place on Bristol. There's one currently taking place on Grand. We've had widening projects all over town, and they're all over communities. We want to make sure that the folks here in this neighborhood are treated no differently and no worse than anybody else, that they get treated fairly. And there's been meetings, there needs to be additional meetings, and I think somebody spoke about a delay. Mr. City Manager, maybe what we do is we consider that delay, if we could, to have some additional comment. I think it'd be a good idea to make sure everybody has an opportunity to opine and comment, because more than anything, I'd like our staff to go out and address some of the misnomers that people, unfortunately, really recklessly state, and that's not doing a service to anybody. So we want to make sure that it's a fair process, and we want to make sure that the city explains how thorough and how thoughtful we're going to be in this process.
Thank you, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and the council members, and others have contacted us too with similar concerns, and we'll make sure that we schedule those extra meetings, and we won't come to the council until we've had those meetings.
Thank you. With that, let's continue. Rick, please come on forward, and then Richard Garcia. Please go ahead, Rick.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, all the folks around the world here. I just came back from a meeting from 2 weeks ago, our national meeting with AYSO, and we were reported as the world's largest youth soccer club, and that's a pretty big accomplishment for AYSO. We're not only a rec program, but we're now a soccer club. So when people think about that's a good accomplishment. Also, you see on my shirt, we're celebrating our 30th year in Santa Ana. We're still the oldest soccer club in the city of Santa Ana, and we'll be having our opening ceremonies the second week of September, right after Labor Day. We'd like to invite you guys out. I'll get the dates and get it to the clerk. It's an exciting time. The other thing is this is my last year with AYSO because my kids are aging out after 26 years. That's a long time, and there's been a lot of changes in the city. A lot of changes in the climate of youth soccer as well as adult soccer in the city. For the most part, the city has welcomed the change and been very passionate about it. I hope that continues. Something else we started last year is our VIP program, which is our very important players. Those are kids that are mentally or physically challenged. And I'm hoping to partner with the city this year, and that'll be my project when I do step down as the regional commissioner, to get these kids, which they're kids, playing soccer no matter what disability they may have. I think it's important that we get those out on the field, whether they're in a learning disability or in a wheelchair, or they're blind, they can't see very well. We want them out there because they're still kids. And after 26 years, I recognize in the city that sometimes we just don't get those kids to come out and let them be kids. So hopefully with this program, and we can partner with the Park and Rec Department on this, and we have a place for these kids to play. We have sponsors for them to play, so it doesn't cost them very much to play. So
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Good evening, council members and mayor. The issue is, again, we're going to talk about the situation with the widening of the project on Warner. It's going to impact not only the people that live there for so many years, decades, but it's also going to impact the situation on traffic, and that's going to be west of Main. It's already impacting now because people are taking a shortcut. If you see there at 5 o'clock, any given day, especially on a Friday, even at 4:30, it's already backed up. So what's going to happen is people are going to start speeding down the streets. We already have speedsters now as it is. You can speak to Commander Kaminsky and Commander Ibarra. We've been asking them to slow down the speeds in that area. But this is definitely going to make a tremendous impact on the neighborhood. And on top of that, we have Modern Day building their parking. So now you're going to have two issues involved at the same time. We definitely, like Sarmiento council members say, we need more time on this issue. Okay? Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also,
Thank you.
I've been the president of the association for almost a decade, and I'm a native of Santa Ana, okay?
You've been doing a
you very
good
much.
job. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to, we have more comment that we'll take later, but right now I'm going to go with our consent calendar and ask council members if there are any items that they wish to pull or abstain on. Yes, Councilor
I
Martinez.
would like to pull 22E, 25B, and 31A.
Madam Clerk, you get those three? Can you repeat them, please?
22E, 25B, and 31A.
Any other items by council members? If not, I'd entertain a motion on the balance.
Motion to approve the remainder.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. 22E, Councilor Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm supportive of this item. I just had a quick question as it pertains to the audio and video equipment for official city meetings. Mr. City Manager, I'm not sure if you're going to be, or Gerardo or someone else from your staff. Okay, Gerardo. So 22E, which is the audio and video equipment, so it's additional, and based on your notes, we're including $30,000 for committee meetings within the room 1600. So are those, our committee meetings, will they start being broadcasted in there?
You'll have the ability to make that decision. The equipment that will be installed will allow for either audio or video recording.
Okay.
You'll have the capacity.
So we will now have the capacity to move forward to go broadcast our meetings after we approve this item and we get the equipment and installation of...
This equipment will be able to record video and audio, not necessarily live, but we'll be able to replay it, depending on what format, whether it's CTV3 or the internet, yes.
Okay. That was my only... I just wanted to make sure if we had either option. Thank you. With that, I'll move the item forward.
Great. I'll second with comment, and I'll call on myself unless there's anybody else who wants to speak. But the mayor stepped out of the room. I just wanted to make just some brief general comments on this. I wanted to thank the director of Parks and Recs. I wanted to thank the city manager and his staff. But I really wanted to speak on behalf and call on the clerk of the council, because she really made an effort here to try to be more transparent, more open. None of our committees have ever been recorded. There's been no record. There have been no minutes, at least, that we can refer to with a lot of clarity. I think this is one effort that the clerk has made to make sure that these things are recorded, the conversations are memorialized, everything has a record. And so I think that this was a very, very nice job on her behalf. It's cost effective. I didn't realize that that these were also going to have the capacity to be video recorded. I thought it was just audio recorded. So I assume that they'll be made available in archive for the public to be able to pull down in case they weren't able to make it to one of our meetings. They can go ahead and do that. It's not going to be live, we get it, but at least there'll now be a record where the public can go and access the information in the event that they can't have it. I know the councilwoman and I sit on committees that take place during the day when folks are working. So this way now, there's a record of it, they can go pull it down. But one last thing I think that's real important for people to know is that they can comment now publicly online. So there's going to be a way that if they want to comment on a meeting, on a matter, on an agenda that they're not able to attend, they can go ahead, and I think the site is ecomments@santaana.org. So that's a real good thing, because a lot of times people can't go there and they can't voice their opinion and they feel like they're not being heard. This way there'll be one more opportunity. So kudos to all three departments, kudos to all the staff, but good work, Madam City Clerk, on that. And I'll second with a lot of
Well, we have a
enthusiasm.
motion and a second. Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously. With that, 25E.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had a very brief question on this. 25B, it's really the hardscape pressure washing services for the Civic Center. And nowhere in the report did I see that water is going to be recycled. And so I wanted to state for the record, wanting to make sure that we are now mandated to not use potable water. So whoever we're going to contract with, that they need to use recycled water for pressure, because I did not see it on there. So I'm not sure if we have to make an amendment to making sure that we're able to do that. And so I'd like to make sure that if we could continue the item for 2 weeks and bring the contract back to us, unless, Mr. City Manager, you can just put that in there and they would accept that.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman. If that's the law and that's a requirement, I can assure you we will follow it. So if you could approve it with that understanding for the record, then we'll make sure the water is recycled.
Can you please include that in your motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposition, motion carries unanimously. So with that, 31A is in Andrew.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and this too, I wholeheartedly support this, but I wanted to pull this item because I think it's very important for us and what we're doing here today. We're approving this conditional use permit to allow for a trade school on East Edinger. And I think that is exceptional. A lot of people, sometimes don't realize some of the things some of the schools that are coming into the city of Santa Ana, and this could have just bypassed us if we didn't pull this item from the consent calendar. I just think it's amazing that they are coming into the city of Santa Ana, and I look forward to certainly working with them. And I'm not sure if the applicant is here or he's out there in the back, and thank you for bringing your trade school to the city of Santa Ana. And number two, we are also part of the empowerment zone, and so there are certainly funds. Hopefully our staff will be able to get you involved in understanding that process as we move forward, making sure that we're able to get some of our residents into your trade school. And with that being said, I move the item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. So with that, let's go on to, I believe, Madam Clerk, would that be item 55A? I would entertain a motion on 55A. It's a circulation element.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor, with comment, please.
Please go ahead. Comment, Councilor Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, on this item here, and maybe our Public Works Director could come up here because I don't think I'm going to be able to be supportive of this item, and please indulge me. Let me tell you why. So the City Council embarked on updating its circulation element 1.5 years ago. That item has been on pause because we are now updating and creating the Santa Ana Mobility Plan, making sure that there's consistency with the circulation element. But what's before us is a resolution to support and affirm the consistency between the city circulation element and the master plan of arterial highways of the Orange County Transportation Authority. And if you all know what my feelings are about the arterials, the arterial highways plan of Orange County, it pretty much has told us, and I've had this conversation with our city manager, that if we choose to make changes to our arterials, we can lose funding. But here, for us to get Measure M2 funding, we're here supporting our current circulation element, I'm assuming, because we had the new circulation element hasn't been approved by this city council. We're affirming that we're okay with the consistency of the master of arterial highways. If we're updating this plan, why wouldn't we put a hold? I understand there's $4.4 million of some sort that if we don't approve this, we're not going to receive the money. But at what point in time are we going to have control over our own destination, our own roads? I've asked this question to our Public Works Director in the past. Here, it's kind of binding us, saying that if we approve this resolution, that we're going to be consistent with this master plan of arterial highways. I personally cannot be supportive of that because we're taking a whole new direction. And for $4.4 million, look, I'm just one member of the city council, but we need to be very frank and understand what we're approving here. And for $4.4 million, at the end of the day, I believe we need to control our own destiny. But I'm just one member of the council. It's up to my colleagues if they really think we need that $4.4 million without approving our updated circulation element. Mr. Public Works Director, can you tell me, because I can never pronounce your last name and I'm not going to chop it up, because I think you're a great guy, Fred. When will that update of the circulation be coming before this city council for approval?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As you know, we're working on safe mobility plan. That's first. That's why we slowed down the circulation element plan. And we're working also on a pavement management program, which all of these three would generate the master plan of the city, which include 4 or all mode of transportation. So that's moving forward. Safe mobility would be completed by the end of the August. That's the plan. And then we move into circulation element. We finished that. 90% of that is completed, I believe. And that would take into place. At the same time, we're going to finish pavement management program. Now, what you see before you here is my understanding that is taking care of the financial, legal part of what they have in place in order for us to reserve the right to take advantage of the funding that is available for this program, and that's it. And we are fully intending to pursue the priority of the council in terms of transportation means.
So is there anywhere possibly in this resolution that you can state that? Or will, again, I'm only one vote. I'm going to be a no vote. If my colleagues want to move forward with it, they can, but I'm going to be a no vote because I don't believe it's consistent with the city council's priorities.
I just have one question for you. If we approve this resolution tonight, does that, lock us in and we can't make any updates to our circulation plan?
That's not my understanding that will do that.
That's not,
my understanding is this is the formality.
It's separate.
And then they're completely separate, and once we come up with our circulation plan, we'll be able to present it, and we will pursue it that way. Just a formality over the years. Every time, this time, we need to kind of agree so they can get their funding, so we can get our fundings.
And do we have a time frame as to when we're going to be able to look at our circulation element and, when it's going to come to council?
As I said, Safe Mobility SAMHSA program, which is which is pedestrian and bicycle safety program, that would be completed in August. In August of this year, and we've got 10% of a circulation element left, which I assume is going to take another 2 or 3 months. So I think we'll be able to come in with a complete program by the end of the year.
Okay.
Madam City Attorney, just real quickly, and I believe Fred, and I'm still going to be a no vote, but just for clarification for my colleagues to understand what they're voting on, is making sure that if they do affirm this, and when we come, when the new circulation element comes before this council, will there have to be an amendment to this resolution for its consistency, or this will be just based on the old circulation element that we currently have in place? Ms.
If I understand what we're being told here is that you adopt this as a formality to make you eligible for funds for Measure M. So what you would be doing here is it says that the arterial highway portion of the circulation element is in conformance with the master plan of arterial highways. So you're stating, by adopting this, you're saying our current circulation element is in conformance with your master plan. If the changes that you're contemplating moving forward are different from the master plan for arterial highways, then you need to know that. I don't know that they are, but at some point when that comes back to you, it should be very clear to you which portions of that are different from this master plan, because then you will no longer be able to honestly tell the county that your circulation element is consistent. What I'm hearing is that right now it's consistent. That's right, so that you tonight could adopt this because this is consistent. When you move forward, you're going to have to do some more analysis and make sure that it's consistent.
Yeah, it may or may not conform, but as Madam City Attorney says, right now it's conformance, but we won't know until we get our new circulation element, and we're going to pursue forward accordingly.
So, okay, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so where are we then?
One more question. So if once we update our circulation element, and say we already have the 4.4 million coming to us because we passed this resolution tonight, and we get our new circulation element, we have to go back and make some adjustments? Or
My understanding has been, in my previous experience with similar type of plans, when plan changes, we can apply, we can actually request for the changes, and we can proceed accordingly. and at that time, they make a revision on the funding, or if it qualifies for revision, they will do that. If not, it will go to the next year, and next year we can present our new program.
So those revisions on funding, would that mean like the city giving money back, or what exactly do you mean by revisions on funding?
No money would be given back unless
Okay.
the money, it wasn't complete for some reason. So I think what Fred's saying is that right now we're in conformance, so we qualify for this money. At a future point in time, when we make a different policy decision, then at that time we would either ascertain or say, no, we're not in conformance, which then becomes a policy decision. But I don't think we lose anything by approving this tonight.
So with that, I'd entertain a motion.
There is a motion and a
We
second.
have, so with that, Councilmember?
There's a motion and a second.
Okay, so we're ready to vote. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries with one no vote. Did you get that, madam?
Did you get the maker of the...
Did you know who the no vote was? Got it. All right, so with that, let's go on to 55B. Miriam Lopez, if you could come on down and speak. And then next, after her, Sam Romero, who's never for a loss of words. And Raul Llanes. And Raul, if you're here, come on down. Sam, come on down towards the front so we can hear everybody. Sam, you go first because I don't know where Miriam Lopez is. So, Sam, you go first, and then Raul Llanes. Raul, come on down, then Paul Chamberlain. Please go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Wellness Corridor, and some of the language has been put out there. For once, I'm going to use some notes because at my old age, I can't remember a whole lot of stuff. And I'll read it to you, okay? Create an economic advisory committee with sufficient small business, labor, and community representation. Council members have been supportive of more representative body that specifically works on the economic development strategic plan and sets upon completion. The body is therefore not a commission. This committee would have specific role and function of advising the city council on economic development strategic planning process of the city. The advisory committee specifically work with hired consultants to develop a process of community engagement and rest of the topics of broad community concern with economic development planning. This committee is also intended to review a final recommendations of the consultant and advise the city council accordingly. The language we recommend option number 2 with amendments. Option 2, creation of an economic development committee membership to be comprised of 7 to 11 individual representing the following groups nominated by the mayor and each council member: health provider, education institution, Main Street merchant, representing small business owner including Latino or Vietnamese representation, labor, and community advocates. Now, it always worries me when there's not a real cross-section of people in this. Back in my mind, I remember the P-bid. That was disastrous. We need some more representation of the folks, the little guys, okay? And the last thing is the Calle Cuatro, okay? As a lot of can remember history, when the South Coast Plaza came to being, all those stores went that way. What happened, downtown 4th Street was a ghost town. Who brought it up was the Latino community, okay? And this is the amendment in the language, okay? Whereas since mid-1970s, it really should be earlier than that, local and regional Mexican immigrant residents of
Sam, if you could wrap up, please.
Okay, it's only just a couple more. Downtown by transforming the area into a thriving cultural, retail, and entertainment district, infusing culture and diversity, and providing economic support. And whereas 4th Street has gained popular prominence locally and regionally as a growing, thriving commercial shopping district. This town success have led regional visitors, past, present, to the public referred to 4th Street as La Calle Cuatro. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Raul Llanes. Yes. Unless you don't want to speak, I'll go to Paul Chamberlain. Paul, if you can come on down, please. And after that, Rosalina Vargas. Please
Just
go
got
ahead,
here,
Raul.
so I don't know what's going on. right now. But anyway,
requested to speak.
I believe it's about the
55B, requested to speak.
55B is regarding about the wellness corridor. Well, I was not prepared for, to speak, but I have something in mind.
Well, did you fill this out? Or somebody else filled it out for you? That's okay if somebody filled it out for you.
That's fine. I don't know who did it, but it's fine. I was going to speak anyway.
No worries.
Whoever filled out that form, thank you. That was very nice. Anyway, like I said, I was not prepared for this, but in 1979, when I first opened up my business, 4th and Bush, I came a few times to check the downtown before I decided to open up my business in downtown Santa Ana. I think I did the right decision to come and open up my business here, and I've been in downtown Santa Ana for this year is going to be 36 years. I think I did the right decision to move over here from LA in 1979. I have seen changes in the downtown, like the first remodeling the whole downtown. I mean, the street, the buildings. I was part of that phase back in the mid-'80s. I've seen that again these days, and I think it's a good thing, just like the first one back in the mid-'80s. It's a good thing that is happening here in the downtown. I would believe that anything that we do to improve our businesses, our city, and improve the quality of businesses in the downtown, it's good for the community, it's good for the city.
Thank you, Raul.
That's it?
That's it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Now, let me ask Paul Chamberlain, Rosalina Vargas, Karen Gallardo, Beda Ruiz, you all have the same handwriting. Do you all wish to speak, or are you like Raul? You want to speak? Go ahead. Paul Chamberlain, come on down. ¿Usted es Paul Chamberlain? No, ahorita Paul Chamberlain primero. Paul, are you here? All right. Let me get the translator down. Meanwhile, Karen Gallardo, do you need translation? Oh, go ahead and speak while the translator comes down, please. Please go ahead. Y Rosalino, ahorita va a hablar usted. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Pulido and council members. My name is Karen Gallardo, and I am a student at Carr Intermediate. I am here in support of the Wellness District resolution and here to discuss about the question that has been repeated several times. How will microfarms contribute to the city, to the community? Well, I have some contributes on how microfarms can change Santa Ana for the better. It all starts with the question who and how. If the microfarms can be run by the residents of Santa Ana, it would be able to connect to our roots, but it would also be beneficial to our low-income residents and would allow us to absorb the knowledge of health and not obesity. Let it sink in. Picture our residents gathering in a microfarm where we get to learn about agriculture and learn how to grow our own food fresh from the soil and not from a grocery store where it can be a little difficult for some families to purchase. This would be an epic resolution to see all Santa Ana residents to be able to have part of the microfarms. The benefits of microfarms are higher than the community gardens. It changes the whole cycle of the access of fresh fruits and vegetables. For our Santaneros, a microfarm focuses on the production of food and provides economic empowerment to the local community. The methods of agriculture used in microfarms are amazing, and having an agreement with a nonprofit that can be run by the Santaneros would be best. As is, the language of resolution seems a bit vague. We suggest including the resolution that the city will pursue a long-term lease agreement with a nonprofit organization that can be the jumpstart of a work-owned microfarm operated by and for the low-income families. We want to maintain the integrity and proposal and make economic development and access to healthy foods a reality for local families. Everyone deserves to reap the benefits of growth and development. Thank you for your undivided attention to me.
Thank you. Rosalina, followed by Beda Ruiz. And Beda, do you require translation?
Muy
No?
buenas
Okay.
tardes, muy buenas tardes, señores concejales, alcalde y personal de la ciudad. Mi nombre es Rosalía Vargas, trabajo para Latino Health Access y coordino el Parque Familias Corazones Verdes. Antes que nada queremos agradecerles por el tiempo que se han tomado en escuchar esta propuesta comunitaria. Creemos firmemente que el trabajo de un buen gobierno es trabajar con transparencia, inclusión y participación de su gente, y no queda más que agradecer y reconocer cuando se está llevando a cabo esto. Queremos también tomar el tiempo de recapitular lo que hasta ahorita ha transcurrido. Nosotros todos somos o residentes de Santa Ana o organizaciones comprometidas al bienestar de todos, empezando con los que menos tienen. Yo a diario trabajo con familias que carecen hasta de necesidades básicas. Tienen alta incidencia de obesidad y diabetes, y son las familias mexicanas o latinoamericanas como las suyas y la mía, que nos venimos a este país por mejores oportunidades. A diario trabajamos y gastamos en esta ciudad. La vestimos de colorido y celebramos juntos para que esta ciudad sea grandiosa. Y por lo mismo merecemos crecer juntos con esta ciudad. Somos también estas familias las que proponen sus propias soluciones. Cuando se quedan sin qué comer, empiezan a crecer su propia comida. Cuando ven que mucho lo necesitan, proponen toda una granja. Son familias multigeneracionales, con hijos que crecen orgullosos de sus raíces y que también quieren tomar parte en el crecimiento de su comunidad. Esta resolución ha sido una compilación de trabajo con familias, negociantes y grupos comunitarios que ahora no solo responden a proyectos, sino que los proponen. Las recomendaciones que verán esta noche son necesarias para asegurar que el desarrollo comunitario y económico siga siendo participativo e incluyente. Hemos llegado hasta aquí. Ustedes se han mostrado en apoyo y aquí les traemos este paquete para cada uno de ustedes que aclare la resolución. Hay 3 puntos importantísimos que queremos que lo tomen en cuenta y es una noche para celebrar.
Gracias.
Good evening, members. My name is Rosalia Vargas, and I work for Latino Health Access and the Green Hearts families. And I'm here to thank you for the time, for listening to our proposal, this community proposal. And we believe that a good government listens, is working with transparency, inclusion, and the participation of the people. And we'd like to thank you and recognize when this is taking place. We also like to take the time to summarize what has transpired so far. We are residents of Santa Ana or organizations committed to the well-being of all, starting with the ones that have the least. I work every day with families that don't have even the basic needs. They have all high incidences of obesity and diabetes. These are families from Mexico and Latin America, like your family and mine. And we are here, we came to this country for a better opportunity. We work every day and we spend money in this city. We dress it colorfully and we celebrate together, so this city is great. And that's why we deserve to grow together with the city. These families, also the ones that propose their own solutions. When they don't have anything to eat, they start growing their own food. When they see that more people need food, they propose to have a whole farm. These are multi-generational families with children that grow proud of their roots and also want to take part in the growth of their community. This is a resolution that has been compiled with the work of the families, the merchants, and community groups that not only respond to projects but now propose projects. And the recommendations you will see tonight ensure the community development and economic growth to be participating and inclusive. And we have here the different points that we would like to present to you tonight.
Thank you. With that, Beda Ruiz, come on down, please, followed by Mark McLaughlin.
Buenas noches a todos. My name is Beda Ruiz. I am a senior at Middle College High School, and I am here tonight to speak in favor of the Wellness District resolution. We want to thank you for coming this far. This has been a collective work of neighborhood residents, community groups, and downtown business and yourselves. We did want to remind you that all of us came together in a proposal specifically for our downtown, because while we agree with growth and development, we think it's very important that the growth includes all of us. We appreciate your support thus far. As a point of clarification, while it was proposed that resolution be extended for wellness throughout the city, we are not in agreement with that modification. We have not done the citywide research or outreach necessary to propose something citywide. We did, however, start in the downtown as an important model that can subsequently be referenced in other areas of the city. The downtown focus is critical in order to strike an important balance that allows everyone to belong and thrive in downtown Santana. Gracias.
Okay, Mark, come on down, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here on behalf of Dave Elliott, who's the president and chairman of the Santa Ana Chamber of Commerce, and he's already submitted his comments, but he asked if we could have the comments stated at the council meeting tonight. So on behalf of Dave, I'd like to just say that with regards to 55B, currently the city is engaged in a specific economic development strategic plan that should be ready for review and implementation this fall. Should we not wait until the full report is done before we implement any changes or additions? I would think that we would want all the data and information that the study would provide us before moving ahead with certain changes. In addition, we also have a working economic development task force that is meeting regularly and making recommendations to the council. If the task force needs more input around the table, then why not just add the additional voices so that we might have additional input? I think that what we do today, if we don't do this, it might diminish the work of the task force. Finally, you have two proposals ahead of you tonight that have been submitted by city staff. If you deem it necessary to move ahead on one of these options, as president and CEO of the Chamber, I would hope that you would choose option 2, creating an economic development committee or commission. This option creates a broad range and a group of entities that would be very representative of the need and expertise that is needed for the effective economic development strategy and program. Option 1, I feel, does not make the inclusion and could be very political and could end up with individuals that lack expertise or the best interest of all of Santa Ana community. I appreciate all the work that you do. I appreciate everything that you do to make Santa Ana a great place to live, a great place to work, and a great place to play. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment, and say hello to your president, and thanks again for coming down, Mark. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to council for consideration. I'm going to call upon Mayor Pro Tem Vince Sarmiento, not Sal Tinajero. Wait, one more speaker. Miriam Lopez, I called you earlier. Are you here now? Yes. Come on down, please. And then after that, I'll recognize our Mayor Pro Tem. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening. My name is Miriam Lopez, and I am a resident of Santana. And today I just wanted to mention that we have been working for this resolution for the past 6 months, and we've been working together, and it's something that we want. We brought this resolution in the beginning, and so far we have 4 points, and we want to make sure that they're included. First of all, the resolution for wellness, we want to make sure that it's a strategy for downtown. We appreciate your support thus far. As a point of clarification, while it was proposed that the resolution to be extended for the wellness throughout the city, we are not in agreement with this modification. We have not done a citywide research or outreach necessary to propose something citywide. We did, however, start a downtown as an important model that can subsequently be referred in other areas of the city. The downtown focus is critical in order to strike an important balance that allows everyone to belong and thrive in downtown Santana. Second of all, we want to maintain the integrity of the microfarm proposal and allow for entering a long-term lease agreement for near future.
Council members have constantly shown enthusiasm for this proposal. There has been a direct advocacy by youth, family members for the creation of the pilot farm project. As it is, the language of the resolution seems a little vague. We suggest including the language that the city will pursue for a long lease agreement with a nonprofit organization that can be an incubator for a worker or microfarm operated by a low-income families in order to maintain the integrity of the proposed and make an economic development. Third of all, we want to make sure to create an economic development advisory committee with sufficient small business, labor, and community representation. Council members have been supportive for a more representative body that specifically works on economic development strategic plan. And sunsets and upon completion, this body is therefore not a commission. This committee will be the specific role and function of the advisory committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, I'll bring it to Mayor Pro Tem Vince Sarmiento for comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to begin by thanking all the advocates and all the folks in the community who've been helpful in working with our staff to try to come up with a plan that everybody could be supportive of. And as you know, these things are a process. They're not done overnight because they're complex and they have a lot of different components. So I also want to thank our staff for being very accessible, accommodating, and I think willing to work with the community, because this was something that was community driven. I think in the work studies that we've had here, in the comments that we've had, we've seen that there's consensus on many of the issues that were posed before us. I know that there was some reluctance on some, maybe some differences of opinion on others, but for the most part, I think you saw general support for the whole concept, and I think the whole approach on wellness, being a healthier community, being a community that recognizes its history, that recognizes the culture that is Santa Ana. And I think, people like Sam Romero, who spoke to it well. I think the young woman who spoke before, talking about wanting to make a more healthy community. I think, all of us, who isn't supportive of that? So it's just sometimes when we get into the details on how we can accomplish that. And this, we have to remind ourselves, this is a resolution. This is not being codified in any way, but what it does is it gives legislative intent and spirit of support on these different issues that we all feel strongly about. So I'm very supportive, as I was when it was first presented to us in the work study on these 4 points. The only point that I'd like to clarify is on the motion on the recommended action item for number 1 is we have an option of either 1 or 2 on the economic development advisory committee or commission. And I think to Mark McLaughlin's point, I think I'm also, I think we all want some clarity on it. I don't think I'm supportive of option 1 because it does seem to, again, convene a commission, which would be a perpetually meeting body and group, like our planning commission, like our Parks and Recs commission and others. I think this, similar to the economic advisory task force that's been put together, I think this committee would be one that has a span of life, I would say, for a fixed period of time. I would say 12 months, and it would be, I'm open to either 7 or 11, but I think 7 is a good number. I think what we want to do is bring people from the community that aren't included in the other committee, because I think the other committee includes folks from larger industries, from businesses that may not have a lot in common with some of the other smaller businesses that people have spoken about, some of the nonprofit and community leaders, and to make one large committee would just make it logistically not work well. I think if you have this other committee put together, maybe a member from each committee could share. Maybe one could go to the other meeting, the other can come to this meeting, and they could share thoughts and what they're working on, and maybe hopefully work collaboratively. But what we want is for this committee to have representatives from micro businesses, from smaller businesses, to be able to go ahead and comment on the economic development plan. So I would lean towards that option, which I guess would be a version of option 2.
Can you please maybe make it in the form of a motion?
Sure. My motion will be to move the recommended action item with option 2 to limit it to 12 months and to 7 members.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll have a second with
Please go ahead and comment.
I just have a few questions for our city attorney. We heard some speakers discuss a wellness district, and I believe that the way the resolution is written, I just want to make sure that that it's correct and it's accurate, that it's wellness for Santa Ana. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's currently drafted that it's a wellness concept for the entire city and not just the downtown area.
Okay.
Okay, with that, is there more comment? Please go ahead, Angie, and then we'll work our way down.
I'd just like to thank staff. I know they gave us an estimate. Last meeting, I did want to see some figures attached to it, and I know that we're not in a time, so I figured, give you time to come up with those, but you were very quick in bringing those back to us, so thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Reyna, please.
Sure. I love the fact that residents and the community members were involved and engaged. It's democracy in action, and democracy only works when the residents partake in it. So in that aspect, definitely kudos for everybody who's involved. As we do move forward, I am concerned with one component. We are in a historic drought, and the governor has designated this as a state of emergency. So moving forward, it almost gives the perception that we're going to be promoting more water use. What I'd like to do is put an amendment with that we agree with the concept, but that we won't really move or act upon it until the governor rescinds his state of emergency. So that would be a friendly amendment to.
So, are you making a
Yes. Is that
either a substitute motion or a friendly amendment? Was there a second to the original amendment?
There is a second to the original
my concern
motion.
is the drought.
Yeah, and Councilmember Reyna, can I clarify whether that's to a condition on the entire resolution or just to section 3, which deals with the microfarms?
Specifically, just the water use. Specifically, it's the only one that I have concern with.
Any comment from either the maker of the motion or the second?
And I thank the council member for his comment. Being a former member of the water district as well, I just don't think that we're talking about an agrarian use, something that's going to be so voluminous that the use is going to be perpetual. If we see that, or is going to be so large, if we see that, then I think they're going to have to comply with the same rate adjustments that any of our ratepayers have to work with. So I think they're already bound. Anybody who introduces a use is going to be bound by those same restrictions that the city, that our commercial businesses and our residents. So I'd hate to bind them further. Any new business is going to be bound by our rate structure.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion? And
Please.
This is not part of the resolution. It's just that I have a little garden on the side of my house that we use, and what we use, and this is something that maybe could be utilized by the folks that are working the microfarms, is we use these big trash cans where when it rains, we use that water. Yeah, and so there's things that I think, but I think you bring up a great point, Councilmember.
Again, I'm not opposed to it. It's just that I'm concerned when we talk about water issues. I'm concerned when we are about to potentially fine residents thousands of dollars, and the perception is that we're encouraging more water use. Again, I think this is a great project. Serving on the water board for the last 10 weeks, I definitely see the magnitude of our water issue, and so I'm just concerned with that. Again, I'm not opposed to it. It just happens to be we're in the worst drought that California's ever experienced before.
And if I may just add that to your thought, Councilman Reyna, and that is that what we're talking about here in many cases is growing food, and if we don't grow it here locally, it's going to get grown out in the Central Valley with a very intense water use, then it's going to be trucked down here locally. So if you're looking at the big picture, it might actually be less water use per unit of food doing it locally. And I think there's other benefits to the community to begin to grow our own food locally. So what I would request is that we just track this very closely, but that we look at it holistically, and that we work with you on the water board to make sure that we're not violating any intent. But I'm telling you, this can actually save water, assuming we eat the food that we grow and that we grow it well. So with that, let's...
Sure, then in that
please.
sense, I would just direct staff to keep a watchful eye on that and come back periodically, maybe every quarter.
Monitor and advise.
To find out exactly where they're at.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always a good thing and a very positive thing when you see different members of the community come together in different segments of the community. I think what you've seen and what was spoken to here a bit ago, we've had a number of speakers over the last number of months, but there's been local business, there's been people who've been involved in the city for a long time, newer residents, and different demographics. When you have a young person from Car Intermediate here come and speak to us, and you have somebody, a representative from the Chamber of Commerce coming to address the council on a resolution such as this, I think it's a very positive thing, again, when you see our community coming together. And I did want to reference the microfarm idea, and I think, Mayor, you make some very good points, that there is a lot of benefit, including what was mentioned here by one of our youth leaders, a lot of potential benefit to our local community. And the Section 3 of the proposed resolution that we're considering tonight is a bit general, and so what I'd like to recommend is that we consider a language that gives it a little bit more traction and has more clear intent, as going to Mayor Pro Tem's point. So what I'd like to ask the maker of the motion is that he consider a slight modification in the language specific to Section 3, and I'm going to read, and I did provide some of this. This was provided to me in discussion with a member of the community, some members of the community, and it was actually addressed by one of by again our youth speaker here, and I did provide some of this language to the city attorney. So I'll go ahead and read it right now for my colleagues to I think maybe all of us will receive something to that effect. But Section 3, the last line, but I'll go ahead and read the whole sentence there, and then I'll specifically point out the area that I'm suggesting that there would be a modification on. So it reads, desiring creation of microfarms, the City Council directs staff to identify and analyze real property locations for potential microfarms. And then this section, the following section is what my recommendation is to pursue a long-term lease agreement with a nonprofit organization as an incubator to a worker-owned cooperative operated by and for low-income families, with the goal of identifying sites of at least half an acre. So that what we are talking this as with the language that I just introduced, it actually gives it a little bit more clarification as to what this microfarm is to look like, what we're seeking, who we're seeking to operate it, and that the benefit that it would bring to what members of our community. Again, overall, talking about organic food, talking about economic development, talking about addressing some of the real opportunities here within our community. So that would be my recommended language to make.
But before you respond, if I can just get a point of clarification on that, I understand you want to add that. Would you also leave in the last portion that says, and to be supportive of private proposals to develop microfarms? Or are you striking that?
I think the language that I just read in is basically encompasses what that includes, a concept of being supportive of private proposals to develop microfarms. I think it's assumed and included, so I don't think we necessarily need that additional language there.
All right, I would just not want us to discourage somebody from coming up with their own proposal beyond what you talked about. Somebody might have a really cool idea. I'd like to see it. But
I think we should keep both. We should add what you have,
keep
and
both.
Add the other. That way, it opens.
It's clear.
It's clear.
Yeah. And as a maker of the motion, I think it's a good addition that you made, and we can keep the last phrase of private proposals, just in case somebody wants to donate land,
or
and
anything,
want to support
some new
something.
ideas, some new watering system. All right, so we've got that. Any other comment? If not, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. So with that, let's go on to the next item. Madam Clerk, is that 65 or 60A? 60A. I would entertain a motion
Mayor, I just have a comment.
Go
on
ahead.
65A. As you know, I would, right? Because, I'm still sore on this issue, on the park rangers. But I don't know where Chief Rojas is at, or maybe our city manager could answer this on 65A. And I just want to thank you all for providing us the updates as we asked you guys to provide the updates on the park ranger program. Oh, we're not even on the park
I am.
ranger
I'm on
Friday.
68. 68.
I was trying to figure out what Chief Rojas had to do with
68.
68. I'll call on Mayor Pro Tem, or who would like to speak? You want to speak? Go ahead.
Well, Mayor, yeah, this
68.
is something that I was sensitive about as well, but I think we're going to come to some resolution here today, and I want to thank our city manager, our city attorney for finally bringing this forward to us, where we actually can set some policy on how we want to appropriate funds to whether it be to neighborhood associations or other entities across the city. I did my research. As many of you know, I don't sleep much, 3.5 hours of sleep. And, over the course of 2 years, I've done a lot of research on this. And I thought the best, the best policy that was out there, and I took a look at Anaheim, I took a look at Costa Mesa, Fullerton, but I really believe that the city of Irvine provided some kind of neutral ground where each council member would be able to get $10,000 and would be able to allocate those funds either to neighborhood associations or to private entities. And so I would like to move forward and recommend that we allocate, go with number 2, which is allocate an annual funding of $10,000 to each council member to nominate neighborhood associations and other approved entities for approved by vote of the entire council for a total amount of $70,000. So this is just.
So that's a motion?
It's a motion, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Have you done research on adequate sleep?
No,
I'm
Mayor.
kidding you.
No.
I'm kidding you.
I have comments.
Let's continue. Councilmember Saltina Jero, please.
Yes, and I thank Councilmember Martinez, and I think that she's forward-looking and has seen this work, and I think that it can be a good plan. My reason for not supporting this is that it's council member driven. I do believe that we aren't going to be gone. There's going to be 4 of us, three of us actually, in a few years that will be termed out, and there is no guarantee, and the precedent that we set is important. This could be very well used politically, with one entity receiving a certain amount of funds while another not receiving any funds, which could create a level of corruption down the road. And it's not about currently, but I'm thinking about down the road. So I would prefer to go with option 1, just because there's always that level of transparency and with our staff. So that's my 2 cents.
More thoughts, please. Councilman Reyna, then Amezcua.
I agree with the comments that Councilman Tenajero had mentioned. Those are definitely some serious concerns that I have moving forward. Regardless of any other entity or city that is doing that, I think it's definitely some red flags that are going up. The only challenge I have with our first recommendation is that it doesn't guarantee equal opportunities for all the neighborhood associations that may be dormant or may be struggling to get participation, to get some assistance. And those that are more involved and better organized, obviously can reap the benefits. Option 2, okay. Yeah, she said that, but Sal had mentioned option 1. Earlier when we had this conversation, I had recommended $1,000 to each neighborhood association on a use it or lose it basis. That way the neighborhood association themselves know what challenges and issues that they want and where they want to spend those dollars, and it's completely up to that association whether they want to participate in it or not. I think either way, ultimately we will be assisting and helping our neighborhood associations, and I hope that's first and foremost, because the first option spells out neighborhood associations. The second option includes approved entities, which means it may not be a neighborhood association, it may be a nonprofit, and so that's a little concerning as well. So those are my comments.
Go ahead, Angie.
I have a question. I'd like to know how many neighborhood associations are in each ward before moving forward. I don't know if you have that information for us tonight, because that could present an issue with, say I have 10 neighborhood associations active and my ward enrollment only has 2, then I can see how, it'll be easier for him to allocate those funds, where I'm going to have 10 different neighborhood associations that, they can make the case for they can make the case, why are you selecting their project when, my project is just it deserves as much as this person. So I want to make sure that, every ward, how many neighborhood associations do we have in each ward?
Thank you. We can find that information, Councilwoman. And I just wanted to emphasize that these options aren't one or the other. It could be a combination thereof. You can increase the amount. You can extend it. I know one of the council members called me to nonprofits, not just neighborhood associations like Kiwanis and other organizations that do great things. So this was more to bring back 2 options that were viable, but we certainly can do more research or do a hybrid or whatever the council desires.
Councilor Benavides, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a motion, I believe, right in a second on the floor. I'm going to be supporting. I think it's pretty clear. The last sentence of that option 2 says that option would require resolution to adopt a policy that identifies authorized and unauthorized expenditures. So essentially, this is going to be coming back to be able to flesh out, how we want to, what makes most sense, what the best protocol, best practices. So tonight we have the opportunity to support this idea, this allocation of being able to give council a bit of discretion on being able to support great causes out there. We every year and more often than yearly on a monthly basis, oftentimes there are a lot of great events, causes, initiatives, things that our neighborhoods take on, projects that our neighborhoods take on to beautify their community, and a myriad of different things. And there aren't necessarily funds set aside for us to be able to support those. So this just provides us an opportunity mechanism by which to do that. Some cases, we don't have an unlimited amount of funds, so we are going to have to say yes to some and no to others, right? And that's part of leadership, is making some tough decisions at times. And so I think we'll have to kind of wrestle through that and make some decisions. But ultimately, the opportunity to be able to specify those protocols, I think, will be coming before us in the not too distant future. Therefore, I think, again, my option 2 makes sense. I'll be supporting that motion.
If I may, I just want to state that, look, I don't think it matters if you have 1 association or 20. It's not going to be nearly enough money. It's almost zero. So what I would say is we all have to be very careful that if you do something, it's $500 or $1,000 or something. I would just point out, to the example we had not too long ago of that parade in Wilshire Square, to where I, thought it was good that we helped them cover their expenses. It was a $1,000 situation for a big community event. Maybe one of us, that represents that ward would do it. The other thing I would say that as mayor, look, I'm not asking for more money. I say, 10 is fair, but I've got the entire city, so I'm going to get requests in all the wards for folks coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no to anything and everything unless we get to a ward, and I talk to the council member, we try to work something out and try to lever dollars. But look, I think we can handle this. It's a little bit of an experiment, if you will. We can tweak it if it doesn't work well. And if it does bring some benefit, we're going to find out. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I do agree with that. And I just wanted to speak to Councilmember Tinajero's point about, how this could be misused. And I think, we do see that. But I guess what gives me some, some solace in this is that this does have to be brought back. We do have to deliberate it publicly before everybody, and I'm sure that the neighborhood association or a credible nonprofit will be here to speak on its behalf. And hopefully, if there's any concern by any colleagues, look, they'll have somebody before them to speak on it. And just to talk about the example that the mayor was saying, my experience was, I remember when the Mexican consulate wanted to do a health fair, and they, were short the fee, the city fee that they were going to be that was going to be imposed. They didn't have the money to make that happen. We had to gather private monies and make that happen. Had we had this, it was a very good purpose. They didn't have it budgeted. Everything was set, and you avoid those good work in the community that's being done. And you have now a source to draw from. So I think so long as we're able to come and deliberate it publicly, we're able to do it transparently in front of everybody, I think it'll work. It'll work well.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Can you repeat the motion, because I'm still in favor?
The motion is number 2 on 60A, item 2,
Okay.
right, Councilor Martinez?
Yes. I'm going to have to vote no on that one for this one.
Okay, so those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed?
No, nay.
Okay, so we have 3 noes and 4 ayes. So those that voted no are relinquishing their money.
I'll take it.
And so it's going to the 4 that carried the water.
We
Right.
wanted option 1.
All right, so with that was a joke, but we'll see, everybody, we'll see how this works. Let's amend the motion. Those that vote yes get to do something with the money. So with that, item 65A, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
It's
that's where
yes.
I had this is where...
65A.
Yes. If I could just have our Chief of Police just come up here real quickly, and just want to, again, just thank him for providing us the update. Chief, I know we're having difficult times of still hiring folks. At what level currently are we in overtime for the park coverage? We currently only have 1 officer that park ranger we've been able to hire. And now, I don't know if this is a second new one. If this is a second one that isn't able to carry a firearm, so we need to do additional overtime, or is this the same individual that can't carry, the one individual that we have on board that can't carry a firearm?
No, we only have 1 park ranger on board that can't carry a firearm.
Okay.
But today I did sign a certification, and it has been sent to the city manager. We do have a new hire park ranger that meets all the requirements and is an academy graduate. So she will be on board shortly. And we have 4 others that are in the background stages.
Fantastic. And can you tell me how much longer it's going to take for the background? When you think, if they do pass the background, when do you think we will be able to get them on board?
I'm not sure where each one is in the process, but they are in the background stages, and that's towards the end of the process. If I had a guess, I would say
by the end of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. That's fantastic news. And just again, I just wanting to make sure that we keep track of this. So if another update can come before us, and I know in a couple of months, so that we know where we're at and we're tracking it, I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So with that, we have a motion. It's a receive and file is the recommended action. So we have a motion and a second. And just for folks at home, we're talking about the park ranger program, and I believe the bottom line is that we're saving the program, we're improving it, but we're saving the program. So with that, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those anybody opposed? It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. 65B, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
No, second?
Second with comment.
Go ahead.
Very briefly, I just wanted to make sure that as we hopefully support this, that my colleagues have had an opportunity to take a look at the platform. Hopefully it reflects a lot of what our priorities are. I know the councilwoman and I, who serve on the committee, spent a lot of time with the staff and with our advocates both in Washington and in Sacramento, and we think we've tried to incorporate many of our priorities that are reflected in the strategic plan that we've been discussing recently. But I do want to say, as we adopt a new platform for 2015-16, just to let you know and remind you, for 2014-15, we aggregated about and gathered about $15 million in different grants, whether, I think they included UASI, some COPS money, some transportation money, parks money. So it's been a very aggressive effort that we've made since the convening of the legislative committee and bringing on our new advocates in D.C. And so I just want to make sure that all of us are aware of that. and all the good work that's been done. So thank you, Mr. City Manager. I know your staff has worked very closely with our advocates, and I want to thank my colleague, and hopefully all of this is reflective of all the priorities that we have on the council and in the community. So I guess that was my second. Somebody moved the item already, so I'll
Correct.
second that.
Those in favor, please say aye. Oh,
Aye.
another comment? Go ahead.
Yes, just one is a comment and a question. I want to thank the legislative committee of the council for working on bringing clarity and capturing some of the priorities that we have expressed here as a council, working with city manager and his staff to be able to bring just focus to specific areas where we see opportunity, both need and opportunity for the city. One item that I know we've discussed with Washington D.C. before is and potential funding opportunity that may come down the road is the initiative that the White House established, My Brother's Keeper. And I don't know if it was specifically referenced within one of the categories that was here. I don't know if
Jorge's been the project manager, councilman, and he can give an update.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The My Brother's Keeper initiative is currently transforming at the moment. It's being transferred from a White House-driven project to now it'll be part of the president's ongoing nonprofit work at the end of his term. We're working closely with Holland and Knight right now to determine how the city is going to continue to participate in that program. The great thing for Santa Ana is that the majority of all the elements in My Brother's Keeper are in our 5-year strategic plan. So the city is committed to move forward with those programs and initiatives regardless of the My Brother's Keeper initiative. So the city is committed with those efforts. Now it's just how it's going to be packaged and relabeled.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. I'm glad that that's still on our radar. A couple other items, promise zones, and immigration reform, a couple of key items that are important to our local community here. So with those comments and with that clarification, I'll be supporting that.
Thank you for that. So with that, we have a motion and a second, I believe. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now we're going to go into item 65C, and I would call on Councilor Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have any comment?
Yeah, I'll have comment, but make your motion and I'll comment.
Yeah, I'll make the motion, but I just want a clarification because now you made me think. The recommendation action from our staff is 1 and 2, right? They're not 2 different recommendations? 1 and 2 both. 1 and 2 both. So I support recommendation 1 and 2, Mr. Mayor, and move the item.
Thank you. So we have a second? One motion, a second. My comment and request, and maybe this is a friendly amendment, is that we bring it back maybe in 6 months and see where we're doing. One idea is that it might, and I sure hope it starts to rain in California. And if it does, I think we may want to revisit this. Also, I want to make sure that we monitor, especially, look, the grass can die and we'll plant it again, but there's some bigger trees that would be very difficult to replace. And also when it rains, they tend to, change the environment and actually collect and retain water. So, look, we spent a lot of money on things like palm trees down Bristol Street. I would just hate to never revisit it again, and the trees are getting stressed and we're not thinking about it. So, look, I know they'll survive for a period of time. And I see Fred walking forward.
We could use recycled water for that, Mayor.
Yeah, we could. We could use recycled water. We could do different things. We just have a big asset. Trees are a beautiful thing.
Mayor, we're very focused on that, and I believe for now the trees are excluded from the.
On the medians, for example, if we have the medians.
Just the grass is what we're focused on right now.
Got it. Well,
Mr. Mayor, just one.
Go ahead, please, Councilor Martinez.
Comment. The Metropolitan Water District just approved $450 million for turf removal. And so, again, I've encouraged our staff, and hopefully they're already applying because that money is going to run out very soon. And so if we didn't apply, we're going to miss the opportunity. So it's my hope that we've already applied. For the residents out there please, contact the city or go to the Metropolitan Water District's website. We are having the opportunity for residents within that region to apply for removal turf, and as well as other, if you guys, as Councilmember Sarmiento was talking, Tina Harrell was talking about, he uses trash cans to capture rainwater. You actually are eligible to receive rain barrels as well. And so please, if you are interested, please contact our city staff here, or you can contact me directly, but it is my hope that our city will be applying for those dollars.
Thank you, Mayor. One point of emphasis. We are asking for 1 and 2 with respect to item 2. Councilwoman, I think you know this, on the alternatives on the second page, we're asking for approval of alternative number 4. And that would be basically to obviously not use any potable water for the medians, but that we would use decomposed granite, the kinds of things you just talked about with the state, and that we would look to start funding that with the savings that we receive, which is $577,000, and also look at an interfund transfer of about $5 million, which we would pay back through the revenue source, so we can get started right away.
Yes, I do support option 4 as well, that the city staff recommended as one of the alternatives for action item 2.
Thank you. Any more comment on that? I just think maybe we should add that it should be incumbent upon the representative from the City of Santa Ana Metropolitan Water District to make sure that we apply for all the funds.
I don't know how many times, how many emails I have to send Fred, but I'll continue to do it.
Okay, there's a unanimous vote on that one too. All right, with that, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Now, item 75A. This is time and place for a public hearing to consider the adoption of the city budget. And before the presentation, let me just open up the public hearing. I do have one speaker, then I'll close the hearing and continue with staff presentation. Darrell White, I believe, are you present? Yes. Please come on forward, sir. And I'm now opening up the public hearing for your comment on the budget. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. Again, my name is Darrell White. I'm here on behalf of the neighborhood that I live in. Hello, Councilwoman Amezcua. Riverview Park. And I'm here on behalf of the hundreds of residents that are working or have families and can't be here in an informal nature for our neighborhood association. I have emailed a very detailed list of the process that I've gone through to meet with our wonderful staff members who've been very helpful in giving community feedback as to the park in our neighborhood, Riverview Park. It's a park that has relevance across the city of Santa Ana because of the pony baseball that's played there throughout the year. The park is very run down, as I understand happens at such a high-use park. So what I'm here to do is to, again, pass along the public comment from the community that I live in particular, asking that this council find a way to fit into this budget now, this tentative budget, additional funding for the needed deferred capital maintenance at the park. If that proves impossible at this time, I understand that everyone's hopeful that an anticipated budget surplus will exist, and perhaps we can do it at that later time. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else wish to address the City Council on the budget? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and I'll bring it back to staff. I believe we're going to have a presentation which is germane to this topic.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Are we ready to get started here? And so first of all, I want to thank the Mayor and the City Council for all your leadership to put us in this position. You made a lot of tough decisions over the last several years, and on behalf of the entire city staff, we're very grateful for your leadership. So we'll go over the economic conditions, which are very favorable, talk about the trial budget and community budget hearings, talk about how we did 2014-15, what we're proposing for next year, talk about our capital improvement program, and also review our calendar. We're almost there, and whatever the next steps are. On page 3, I do want to emphasize that we are in a very, very good, solid economic recovery. All of our major indicators are very positive. Our growth in our top 6 revenue sources are high, 8.8%. Sales taxes are growing. Our hotel visitors are growing. Our assessed property values are going higher, which is absolutely wonderful, both for our residents and also for our property tax revenue. Building valuations, in terms of the amount of building that's going on in Santa Ana, has very robust growth year over year, 41.5% increase in valuations. And unemployment rate is way down from a few years ago, and it's actually 5% now, which is better than the state and better than the nation. On page 4, just to compare how we've done, we are in a very strong financial position. We've achieved a 20% reserve policy that was established by the mayor and the city council. We also have a gold star there for a projected $10 million surplus, which the speaker just alluded to, and we need to close out the year. We're very confident, but never spend the money before you get it. Make sure it's all reconciled. That'll happen during August. And then in September, we're going to be asking the city council to give us their priorities. And then in October, we believe in the second meeting, we'll ask for your policy decisions on those one-time expenditures. We have a 14-15 projected surplus, about $10 to $12 million. The bottom line is we're doing better on the revenue, which is good news, about 3.2% better than our projection. And our expenditures are being well managed, about 2% under budget through the first 10 months of the year. And that's a lot of that has to do with innovation, efficiency, and increased revenue from the jail and refinancing debt. And so there's a good momentum there. As I mentioned, the surplus will be for deferred maintenance, capital improvement, our investment in technology. Got a lot of things to do with the general plan, our zoning code update. We've got a new planning and building director that just started. It's got a lot of great ideas. I'll introduce them later. And of course, we want to maintain our reserve levels. On page 7, real quickly, that's how we did. We hit some bullseyes in terms of our estimates. The good news is the variances are all positive, and we're really doing well on our revenue for Santa Ana. I do want to emphasize that our base budget includes all of the items that were approved as part of the 5-year strategic plan. It includes all the monies that are needed to pay for the COPS grants for the second-year allocation. All of the building and planning staff that were approved during the budget year are in the budget. There was absolutely no cuts to any programs or services, none at all. So all we're doing is adding. And the medical marijuana dispensary enforcement plan is already in the budget. Also on page 9, we have included the health insurance rates in the budget. All of the pension requirements are in the budget for our valuable employees. We have been in negotiations for several months for a well-deserved cost of living adjustment for our employees. And we've had discussions about that. And based on those discussions, because we're at a point now where we need to make sure that some money is available for those increases in compensation, we are asking for approval this evening of $2.55 million. So we have monies available for those compensation increases. We also want to remind everybody on page 11 of the city charter requirement. We started way ahead of schedule. We have to have the budget submitted by the 15th of June. We're submitting on the 2nd of June. It has to be done by the end of July. So we're doing good on our schedule. On page 12, I just want to emphasize how good it is, I think, that we have a policy directive from the mayor and council. And the policy directive is really simple, that ongoing revenues need to match ongoing expenditures, and you can only use one-time monies for one-time costs. So you can't try and do one-time solutions for the budget. On page 13, our budget is balanced. There's all the different sources, and those are the expenditures, so we have a structurally balanced budget. Page 14 is another way to illustrate it. You can see public safety is our number one priority, police and fire, and then parks, and there's an allocation there. We are adding to the budget, as I mentioned, more police officers, upgrading equipment, additional library hours, additional library books, the zoo master plan. A lot of these things have been discussed at prior meetings, sponsoring our events. Deferred maintenance is very important, making sure that we have a safe mobility program to make sure our streets are safe. We've also added some money for auditing, the neighborhood associations we just talked about. And then after we listened to the public, we met with city council members, had some really tough decisions to make, but we recommended more books, more money for the neighborhood associations to get to that $70,000 numbers. A national issue, a local issue is body cameras for our police officers. We've added that. Additional recreation classes that pay for themselves. The CERT program's coming back, and the idea of a joint use deferred maintenance. Real quickly on page 16, over 150 speakers. They told us what their priorities were. We listened to them. We made some changes. Community input is very, very important. On page 17 is a summary of the entire proposed budget. I added the recommendation to include monies for salary increases in there, but there's a list of all the programs there on page 17. On deferred maintenance, what are we using our $400,000 for? We need to restore the roof at the corporate yard. We need to address various park facility issues to the $100,000 range there. I know we have done some things in Riverview, Councilwoman, and you and others have been focused on that. We made about $30,000 in improvements there in the last year or so. I did speak to the gentleman who spoke earlier. I did emphasize that I feel very confident about the surplus, and I know that we'll have millions of dollars available for parks citywide. We also are making sure that we do our fire station improvements, ADA requirements, and some other issues there related to libraries. And these are things that have to be done in order to maintain our facilities. And then finally, I do want to talk about the better emphasis on community outreach, and we do have a public works director who's going to review our capital improvement program. Fred.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. We have ambitious and diverse program for CIP next year in 15-16. It's the $68 million program. Basically, we broke down the program into 4 segments. Street improvement, $16 million is slated for that. Traffic improvements, utilities, and city facility improvements. The pie chart below shows the distribution of funds for each category. As for street improvements, we have a number of projects: alley improvement, arterial improvement. About 18 miles of resurfacing is proposed for next year. We are doing a lot of sidewalk improvements. As you can see, 4 projects there, $2.6 million in that total. Street improvement, almost $16 million. An area of traffic, we have traffic signal additions, mobility and safety, 9 projects there, $9 million worth of program. We have a lot of safe route to school projects connecting the community to local elementary school, safely to local elementary school using all modes of transportation. Streetcar is coming and getting into a full swing next year. We're getting into design process, and we're working with OCTA to be able to accelerate that work, and that would keep us busy on that area. On the utility side, council and the residents approved the rate adjustment for utilities. That would generate almost $98 million utility infrastructure improvements. 30 million of that money would be slated to be used next fiscal year. We will be replacing 3 miles of main sewer lines, 5 projects, $4 million, 10 miles of water main lines. We're going to be doing well rehab, pump station replacement improvement. We have facility improvement in terms of, again, well rehab and pump replacements. Street LED, street conversion, LED streetlight, street conversion program, assessment study will take place there in order for us to replace 11,000 SE owned, purchase and replace 11,000 SE owned street lights into LED using energy saving and maintenance saving in paying for $9.5 million capital cost of that program. And we have 5 projects on water, stormwater and drainage. City facilities, we've got transit work, work on recreation and improvement, 9 projects, $3 million. We're replacing a lot of playground equipments in the parks that is stated here, turf replacement for soccer field, and we have, for the park facilities, we have painting, we have electrical improvement, stadium structural repairs, lighting improvement for parks, and we have 2 projects for zoo, $2 million there. These are featured programs. These programs are plans and programs not only address our challenges today, but also would put us on the right trajectory, if you will, for our challenges in the future. Pavement management program is prioritizing street improvements, maintenance, and working with selecting priority with OCTA in terms of where we need to strike a balance with them in terms of full circulation element and projects of that force that we went through just a few minutes ago. We will be also structuring a plan to repave 40% of the remaining streets, $140 million. We're coming with a plan of how we're going to do that and how we're going to pay for it. Next program is Safe Mobility Santa Ana. This is the program that would address fatality and accidents involving pedestrian bicycles. And we're coming with a strict plan and a specific plan for every intersection that have high incidence of collisions. Street LED, we went through that. Assessment district, this is a public-private participation in accelerating pavement program of certain community. This is specifically related to Warner Industrial Community. They have agreed or have stated that they want to pay for half of that cost, which is $3 million. In that way, city would put in $3 million and will be able to accelerate repavement of that program. That would also, if successful, we're going to use the same protocol for other areas and other industrial areas if they wish to do so. These are future, we have set aside $500,000 from general funds toward safe mobility. We're going to use that money to the first most important projects, and then hopefully we have additional funding to address the rest of intersections. What we have here, this is an example of one of the streets, the left and right side. You see all the amenities that you can do in order to slow down the traffic, move volume, make it safe for pedestrian. We'll be looking into all the tools necessary for us to improve these intersections. Curb extensions, painted and elevated crosswalk, refuge medians, bike lane striping, and the rest of treatments. We looked at our program in the future. We have $721 million identified for future challenges in order for us to reach a Class A city in terms of infrastructure. As I said, we are not only addressing today's problem, but we have plans to address every one of those areas. And as we move along, we will be looking at long-term plans of how we're going to address every one of those issues. We've done a lot of outreach, as stated before, 12 or 13 different presentations. We received comments from community. We incorporated their comments into this plan in order for us to have a complete CIP program. We have a plan. I think most of you have seen this tool. This is one of our tools to identify the CIP projects. This works in transparency. It's updated every month. Everybody know which project is stated here, what's the status of those projects, and we'll be able to control the time and the cost of each project as we go along, make sure that we deliver these projects on time and on budget. With that, I turn it over to David.
Thank you, Fred, and Mayor, members of City Council. That concludes our presentation. That is our proposed budget. We had a work study at the last meeting, and it basically is the same with the exception of requesting that we add monies for the compensation increases. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, and I'll go ahead and open it up to my colleagues on the City Council, and Councilwoman Ermesco, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Darrell White for putting Riverview Park on our radar. It is a high-density park. I think we do need to allocate a concrete amount. If we can't do it tonight, in the fall, I'd like to see a concrete amount going towards that park. Like he mentioned, Santa Ana Pony uses it a lot. And I would definitely also encourage staff, and I know that you are planning to, but we need to include our residents to get some input on how we're going to spend that money.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any further comments from the council?
I'm going to wait because I have a lot, so I'll wait to the end.
Actually, I do have one more question.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman.
There is a position for labor negotiations. Let me see if I can find it here on my staff report. It's page 75A8, item J, 75A8 on the staff report. Item J. That position, is there any particular reason why we're adding that position?
Sure. I don't know, Ed Raya question or Francisco? Ed? Okay, is he here? We'll get him and come back to that question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a housekeeping issue, so we'll find out.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further comments from the council?
Okay, he's here now, Mayor Pro Tem.
Ed, the floor is yours. I think you have a question from the councilwoman.
Yes, the question has to do with the labor relations manager position. There's an enormous amount of labor work that we have to do. We've gone to 2-year cycles on all our contracts. There's a number of meet and confers. It's a structure that previously existed in the previous administration. We want to return to that, have someone who will be the point person for all labor relation issues. Obviously working for me, final say is with me, but someone would do all the legwork, contract language.
Okay.
We used the last round of contract negotiations, we used an outside negotiator, an attorney. This is a much more cost-effective way to do it.
Now, we wouldn't be able to have just a part-time position, or it definitely has to be full-time?
Obviously, our recommendation is full-time. We think it's a full-time job.
Okay, I was going to say maybe if we could make it part-time, maybe we could use some of that money, because the next question, if we do want to allocate money to Riverview Park, I was thinking that might be an opportunity for us to do it. But
obviously, it's council's decision, but we would recommend a full-time position.
You recommend a full-time position?
Just kind of following up on that, now that we've lined them all up so that they're all in unison and they're all going at the same time, and the 2-year increments, is there going to be enough workload for them to do within the downtime?
I think it just isn't during negotiations. We start planning for negotiations 6 to 8 months before we actually get to the table, doing the strategizing, doing surveys, a lot of the legwork. And then afterwards, once your contracts are finalized, you've got to put together the MOUs, the contract language. That usually takes 2 or 3 months beyond. So, a 6-month negotiation can easily spread to 18, 19 months. In between, we have requests to meet and confer over a number of issues from the labor groups. I get them on a weekly basis. Every time we change a job specification, we have to meet and confer. There are things that we have to do. So I think there's full-time work.
And you mentioned the last cycle that we went through this, we outsourced it.
We had an outside attorney helping us. Yeah.
And that a previous administration had the same style or approach.
Correct.
And do you know when the last...
the previous labor relations manager, I think may have been called at the time employee labor relations manager, was Kathy Gonzalez, probably 2010, 11. Okay. And then she was promoted. The city of Long Beach has a similar setup.
Thank you.
All right.
May I ask a question?
Please, go ahead.
The previous person who had this position for us, who was that?
The last time it was filled was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was Kathy Gonzalez.
Okay, and was she paid this amount of money for that position?
It was an AM position.
Was it this amount of money,
Well, the salaries have changed, but it was close to it, yeah. Salaries have changed with the changes that have occurred in PERS rates and raises.
Okay, and so we discontinued that position and outsourced it, correct?
Yes.
And did we spend this kind of money when we outsourced it?
We probably spent last year, I think it was a $75,000 to $80,000 contract.
So $75,000 to $80,000 contract, but this is a $220,000
per year.
Per year.
Correct.
I just don't see how we can support that. The numbers don't add up. I know that you're recommending it, but I'm seeing that we have legal counsel here. We have a full department of attorneys here in our city, and then it just doesn't make sense if we could outsource it for $75,000, $80,000. Even if it went $150,000, we'd still be saving money. So I need for us to be very careful. We went through a very hard time when we were cutting back on stuff, on different items throughout the city, and now we're looking at a strong budget. We have money to go around, but we don't want to get ourselves in a bad position again. And it's little things like this that I think we have to watch out for.
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Go ahead, please.
Just to address just this limited question. I remember that when we had to outsource, when Kathy left, I think his name was Peter Brown.
Correct.
Was the attorney that we retained, and it was a very, very difficult time. And I remember the issues were much more complex because I just remember everything coming down on us at that time. And he was able to do a very decent job for us, and I think he was effective. I hope we'll never see problems to that degree that we saw a few years ago. But if we do, I think that there are competent counsels out there that we can retain on a limited basis, and we don't carry their pension and benefits. But again, my 2 cents is based upon the experience that you all did such a good job in retaining outside counsel and selecting somebody that worked very well for us.
It's not ideal, in my professional opinion. I think having someone in-house who understands the relationships is advantageous, but certainly understand counsel's concerns.
Thank you. So with that, let's continue on with comment. Councilor Martinez, would you have additional comment, please?
I think, did you have any more comment, Councilman Martinez? Okay, great. So if you guys just could please bear with me, because I do have a lot of comments. I've, thoroughly reviewed this. And
just lean back.
Many of you have as well.
Relax.
So,
get some water.
Yeah, get some water. I hope not to be that long, because, one of my questions was mentioned with the labor relations manager. And I'm going to be very nice today, so you guys don't have to worry about me. And I'm just going to be very straight to the point. When we talk about equity, transparency, an open process, I'm first going to talk about the CIP process. One, because I think for the first time in my history, my tenure that I've been here on this city council, that we actually have a CIP process. It's not perfect, but we actually made the attempt to do outreach meetings, and we had a public works director that came in here and really provided the information that was needed so that the city council could actually see where we're at, if we're on track. Having information in front of us to make good decisions is very important for this council, and so I want to thank you for that, Fred. You've done an excellent job, and I commend you and your staff for putting all that work together, because I know it wasn't easy. You had to start from scratch. My concern is this. You have Mr. White, who came here, who had the opportunity out in the community to review the city council budget, the CIP process. But something went wrong because he outreached to the city council. And I've been asking, as it pertains to the CIP process, what is that process? We all know that right now, that this process, Fred gets information from the directors internally that provide capital improvement projects that then go to him of what the priorities are. They put that together, they've been out on the road and have presented this to community. Unfortunately, the community really don't get to really examine or really provide their own input of what they see as a top priority in their community with projects. And so they just think that if they want, like Mr. White, he wants to make sure that there's money for deferred maintenance. We all know that that doesn't come out of the general fund budget. I certainly know that. But the community may not know. So there was some kind of lapse here in regards to communication, because we all know that capital projects go through the CIP process, but they were not given the opportunity to vet what projects were important to them in their respective neighborhoods, to be presented to all of us so that we the council can say, you know what? This is all the community capital improvement projects that they see in the CIP. This is what the staff thinks. This is what the council thinks. Where we're able to make a good informed decision. Unfortunately, that was missed here again in this process. I understand we're learning, but as we move forward, I think it's imperative that we move towards participatory budgeting. And people will say, what is participatory budgeting? It's happening all over the country, happening in Vallejo, who went bankrupt, who just received a huge award for this, where you actually take this program and you go out into the community and you let them vote on what projects are important. Then it comes before the city council. We then can evaluate that process and say, you know what, hey, these are some good projects. The community all came together. We're all on the same page. So I'm hoping that next year we can move in that process where we want to continue to empower and engage our residents. And the way to do that is by making sure that they are empowered. And the only way they're going to be empowered is that they understand the process. So again, Fred, I thank you and your staff. I thank folks like Mr. White, residents who have continuously contacted us and wanting to make sure, like, hey, I'm not trying to throw the staff under the bus. I'm not trying to throw the council under the bus, but I just want you to understand that this is a priority of ours. And you know what? There are a lot of priorities throughout the city, but he at least made the attempt to inform us and contact us. So thank you, Mr. White, for actually being engaged. I appreciate that. The second thing I would like to highlight is the process just through the budget. I sent an email to our city manager and to our finance director. And look, I know you guys have the best intentions in mind. You guys are doing your job, and you know this is the city manager's job to present a trial budget to the council. Again, when I talk about transparency and equity, you know, we went through a 5-year strategic plan. And prior to that, let me take you guys back in history when we had our interim city manager, Kevin O'Rourke. The city council made a historic decision to finally update its general plan and zoning plan. These plans have not been updated in 40, 60 plus years. And no wonder why the city goes in 20 different directions. You know, I think this council in 2013, 2014 wanted to make sure that we were able, finally we had the funds to move in that direction, that we wanted to allocate money to make sure we updated those plans. Those monies were allocated in 2013, 2014. Unfortunately, because of the changes that we went through, so I'm not going to throw staff under the bus or my colleagues under the bus, I promise to be nice. Unfortunately, when the next fiscal year was up for adoption in 2014, 2015, those monies were not spent $2.1 million that we allocated. They were put towards a surplus that eventually went to the reserves. We told the community that we were going to update the general plan and zoning plan, but we have no money that's being allocated. What's being recommended is $100,000, but we allocated in 2013, 2014, $2.1 million. It was up to the city council to make the policy decision if we wanted to carry that over. It wasn't carried over, the email that I received. And again, look, a lot of moving pieces. We've been moving very quickly, and I get it, and I'm not trying to throw anyone here under the bus. I'm just trying to create some clarification and understand that this city council really, at the end of the day, has the fiduciary responsibility, and we also made commitments to the public that we were going to do certain things. And unfortunately, this went past us, and the money went to the city's reserves. And on the city reserves, 2012 information, where it says here how the city would, put funds into the reserve, it states here that any transfer to the general fund unassigned reserve balance will be submitted to council for consideration and approval. That didn't take place. So I'm a little disappointed. I'm grateful that we met our 20% reserves, and we met it through here. I'm grateful for that, Mr. City Manager and Mr. Finance Director, but that wasn't passed or moved by the City Council. That was a decision that was made by you and your staff. And so it's just my hope that future monies, whether it be through the 5-year strategic plan or other monies that are unspent, that it comes before us, and that decision is not made by you or your staff, because we made commitments to the public that we were going to do certain things, X, Y, or Z. And when we talk about transparency and sunshine ordinance and equity, we have to look within ourselves, within government. We can't expect others to be leaders and asking others to do those things if we're not doing those 100%. And so I just hope that we will strive to be as transparent as possible and be equitable. And now I'm going to talk about equity and about the positions. Mr. City Manager, in your presentation, and you gave a fabulous presentation and where we're at, I think we've made some massive improvements, and progress has been made. But in your 15-16 trial budget, your funding recommendations, and you've highlighted this time and time again on page 15, that we're going to hire 7 police officers. We're going to be hiring folks for the cameras, but nowhere in here did you indicate that we would be adding an additional 18 positions. And look, that's a trial, but that's up to you how you want to allocate those positions. I want you to do your job, and it's up to us, the council, to make the decisions, as many of my colleagues stated here today, that they feel that we don't think we need a labor relations manager. But here you're also adding, and I want to commend you for this because we are moving in the right direction. You're hiring a chief information officer. We've all told you that technology is important, so we welcome that. I praise you for that. But here, all these positions were not highlighted in the resolution that you're asking us to approve, nor were they highlighted in your trial budget. And so to me, I was under the impression the entire time that you were only going to hire police officers, not hire these other 18 positions. And the equity part, I think, where I get a little, sensitive, is that I think we talk about economic development. That's been a top priority of this council. If you look, we're not hiring any positions there. We're not hiring any positions within the clerk's office. She has 4 positions. If we look at planning, I know that that's some of my colleagues' other priorities, and we have made strides to increasing that. I do want to thank you as well for adding more public works folks. We've mentioned that in the past, and I'm grateful that you are, because they've needed more people within that department. You indicate on your organizational chart for full-time employees, you indicate that you have 10 people under you. And so I had a question because Robert Cortez, I don't see his position within the budget, but I do see it within the resolution where we changed the classifications. And so I'm just wanting to know, where is he? So do you have 10 or 11 people within your office? And where is it within your budget that the position is at? I don't see it.
Thank you. And I'll draw on Fran if he's available, but thank you, Councilwoman, for those comments. And we're all learning. Every city's different, so on the general plan, we'll do a better job on that next time. We'll talk to more people. But it is several years delayed, and that's how we got lost on that. As far as the special assistant to the city manager, I wrote a memo to the council, and basically what happened there was, well, we did a recruitment. We didn't find the candidates that we thought would best fit for Santa Ana. So in the interim, we underfilled the deputy city manager. So there's not an additional position. The special assistant, who right now is Mr. Cortez, is underfilling the deputy city manager position. And as you know, we have interviews for that that are forthcoming. So it's not two positions; it's only one position.
But because I didn't support, and I have tremendous respect for Robert, but I did not support that position when it came before us, I want to say 6+ months ago. But it was my impression that my colleagues supported creating a new classification for the special assistant position. And I just thought that we were going to fill the position with the deputy city manager's savings. And so if you are going through interviews, my question is that if he's not in here for a budgeting, how are we going to put him on there? Because I believe Robert is a key part of your staff, whether we get a deputy city manager or not. Robert has done tremendous work. I have a lot of respect for Robert, and I believe he does have a bright future. And even though I didn't support the position at the time, and I still don't for various reasons, but he's here and he's been a very important employee of yours. And I'm wanting to make sure that when we move forward with adopting this, that we add a position, because we created the classification, that it's added. If it's not, then I'm mistaken. But I was under the impression that we created a new classification for him. That we were just we weren't just not filling his position with the funds from the deputy city manager.
We thought that at a minimum, a person underfilling the deputy city manager position should be an executive. And so after conferring with personnel, Councilwoman, we thought that was the appropriate level. I would tell you that we really don't need two positions at that level in the city manager's office. Of course, the council can always add positions. The cost of a deputy, if you were to add one, is about $311,000. The cost of a special assistant at that level is about $273,000. So again, based on the fiscal policy, if you desire to do that, and of course, I understand that's your policy directive, then I would ask that you reduce the budget by $273,000 accordingly.
Okay, I'd like to keep that in mind, so I will add that to my points here for him and keep in for next time. I have two last questions. The unspent monies in regards to the one-time monies for the strategic plan, you mentioned that we are carrying those over. What is that amount, and what are those items, so that we know what's being carried over? That's the first question, and maybe you can answer that, Fran, and then we can get to the second one.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. The amount of carryover is about $541,000.
500 of ongoing.
No, ongoing is about $2.5 million. The one time is about $541,000.
So 545 is one time, okay. Great. And then the 2.5 million is ongoing costs.
Correct.
Correct. So my next question is coming to the intertransfer fund. You've told me in this email, and hopefully my colleagues, if our clerk can go ahead and give this email to all my colleagues so that they could have it in the future based on the questions that I asked. You mentioned that on here it is, the interfund transfer account, that you guys created a new strategic plan fund. and it's for $3 million. So you have 2.5 million plus the 545 million. Is that all like pretty much, it's a little over the 3 million?
Yes.
So I'm just wanting to make sure, look, I'm not a math magician. I'm not, really good with numbers, but I do my best to try to read everything and try to make sense, making sure that it adds up. And that doesn't add up. And so I just felt that I'm like, okay, if it's 545, that's one-time money that's coming out. What other one-time monies for this next fiscal, is this for this fiscal? This is the one-time funds is 545,000 that you're saying that we are possibly going to carry over, correct? But in the funding recommendation for 15-16, there's going to be additional monies possibly, right? So will the fund get bigger?
Not in essence of the interfund transfer. The reason why it's going through the interfund transfer is because it's coming from the general fund, and the interfund transfer is just a mechanism to put it into an activity, and the reason we're doing that is to better track strategic plan monies or programs and services. So we're going to create a new activity called Fund 52, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to pull, the monies are going to go through the interfund transfer basic mechanism and go back out, because it's really general fund money, and be established in Fund 52. That way, we separate out all the strategic plan elements, and now we'd be able to focus in on what programs and services are being spent out of the strategic plan.
Fantastic. And my last question as we move forward, and as you all know, and when we do move forward supporting this, I will never support a water transfer. I haven't in my past 6 years on the city council. I will continue not to support those transfers of dollars. And my final question, because since we're talking about that enterprise fund, is a UUT tax, and the city manager talked about that. What's our estimated funds that we are expecting? And when those funds do come in, how will those funds be allocated? Will that be part of the additional surplus that will be coming for recommendation to us? I think you said sometime in September or October. I'm just trying to get a feeling of what those total dollars will be and where the UUT tax is with that.
Thank you. I'll try it, and then if I'm not accurate, please jump in. But the utility user tax is doing a little bit better than we thought. A lot of it has to do with the economy. A lot of people are employed, more water, more electricity, gas. The other issue, frankly, is a lot of utility rates are going up, and we get a percentage of that. I do want to emphasize that for 99.9% of people, it went from 6 to 5.5 in March. But to my understanding, the utility user tax is in the budget. Correct. And it supports the current level of programs in the proposed budget. And if there's a surplus, it'll be minor, but it'll be nothing major. And we won't know that till the end of next fiscal year.
Okay, and just wanting to make sure that we could keep track of that, because if there, just say there is wanting to make sure that we're able to utilize those funds towards our strategies, be greatly appreciated.
And I should say, for transparency, it may be bigger than we thought, because as you know, there was a max tax. We don't know. And at the last meeting, as you remember, somebody came in and said their utility user tax was going to be $100,000, whereas before we would have just received a check for $11,000. So there may be a whole bunch of individuals like that, Councilwoman. So it may be higher. We just don't know.
Okay.
Along those lines, we provide a quarterly update on our six top revenues, of which the utility users tax is one component. So you'll be able to recognize immediately if there's a major increase in terms of that one utility user tax revenue source.
On the last strategies of, I know there were a lot of unspent funds for the 5-year strategic plan of the monies that we allocated for this past fiscal year, 545, 2.5. I think it was of the tune of, I think, $7 to $8 million is, I think, what we allocated total. I'm not I don't, or it was 6. I don't know, on that. But whatever it is, I know that there were strategies that, we did not spend. And so would that be presented to us if we wanted to carry that over, if it's one-time dollars for those specific strategies or goals?
I apologize. I'd have to go back and see what value the $6 million you're referencing.
Mm-hmm. It was a total of one time and ongoing. So you're just telling me it's $2.5 million ongoing of the initial strategies, but there was also a lot of one-time funds. It was more than $3 million.
Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Councilmember Martinez, the actual amount that was allocated when the strategic plan was originally adopted, was $3 million, and it was allocated for a number of strategies that were considered unfunded. Out of those $3 million, what Francisco has mentioned, $2.5 million are ongoing monies or ongoing strategies, and then $500,000 is approximately for unfunded strategies. So what finance has done is they've taken a look at what the departments have spent thus far, and they've determined that out of the one-time strategies, most of those monies have not been spent, so that's what they're going to be carrying over.
Okay, that's all I wanted you guys to clarify, and I appreciate that. My final comment is just on the recommendation for the future surplus that will be coming to us. Are some things that, again, the Riverview, I believe that as we move forward, again, typically, we don't use general fund dollars for capital projects. They come out of the CIP. And so, Fred, hopefully I'll work with you. We'll do a better job at assuring, because we cannot set a precedent here. And it's not his fault or others out there in the community, but it's going to be up to us, because the reality is this: the one-time funds that surplus money that we're going to have, it's only for one time. So if you want deferred maintenance, your park has to be within the CIP to making sure that we're able to upkeep that park. And so I'm very supportive. I thank you. I think we need to look at possible ways to help assist, but just understanding typically the process is that we don't use these kinds of funds to help with capital. But if this council decides and sets policy, if that's what we want to do, fantastic, supportive. I believe we need as much money as we can through deferred maintenance, and that's something that I've been pushing for our city assets. So that's one. The second thing is that's not on here when we talk about economic development is South Main Street. That is a corridor that has not really, in many respects, the downtown has been, the baby, what we've been cultivating, the energy, and South Main, has been ignored. And that's a major corridor. Over 70 to 90,000 vehicles go through there a day. And we need to do better to improve that corridor. The businesses in that area deserve it. And so I'm going to ask my colleagues to, and our staff to add that to one of the recommendations. And as well, we are in the process of the wayfinding as we talk about downtown. We're short $150,000. If we're going to want to get something done, let's do it right. We need $150,000 to get the entire project done. Right now, the priority that was presented to us at the council committee, the finance and technology, was saying that the priority was going to be for wayfinding for parking. We need to just wrap it all up and get it done. So I'm encouraging us to pay the $150,000 to the consultant to wrap it all up. And finally, I'm wanting to make sure, lastly, on, I did notice here deferred maintenance for joint use. And a lot of that was not clarified. I know we don't. We have about 8 joint use agreements or 9, and I'm not sure where Gerardo is at. Is that money for those sites or for new sites? Because it says deferred maintenance for joint use.
Thank you, Councilwoman. To your point earlier, we don't have enough money to do deferred maintenance. And so what we wanted to do was to begin some fiscal exercise to get some money, very limited amount. But we've got the Grand Central Station, we've got SARTEC, we got the joint use agreements with the schools, and that's just a small amount. But what we're trying to do is establish a pattern, kind of like what we talked about before, where every year we have money in the general fund for deferred maintenance. So that's the first pot.
Mm-hmm. And just lastly, for my colleagues to consider, our clerk of the council has been needing a position for quite some time that we haven't filled. And we have over 600 public requests. That is a lot. And I'm just hopeful that we will be supportive when we talk about equity and wanting to make sure that we have employees across the board, that we support our clerk, and as well as our city attorney's office. It's not only the city manager and the rest of his departments, but we have a responsibility of the clerk of the council's office and the city attorney's office in wanting to make sure that operations are being run smoothly on all three of the employees that we have, that we make sure that that it's equitable. And certainly they're not in charge of the budget, the city manager is, and it's just our hope, my hope here, that we will consider looking at some positions within the clerk's office and the city attorney's office. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to call on Councilmember David Benavides, and then after that, Mayor Pro Tem Vince Sarmiento.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank staff for all the work that has gone into putting this very comprehensive budget and report together for us, the whole process that you have gone through, going out to the community a number of times, as well as meeting with council at least on a couple of occasions to go over. This is at least the third time that I believe we are each seeing the proposed budget. And we started earlier than we typically have in the preparation of the budget and the presentation of the budget to council, so it's very helpful for us. A couple of the things that I did want to make mention of, and some of them echo, so others of the council have addressed some of the questions that I've, and/or comments that I have as well. But one that I did want to echo is the strategic plan. We did talk about how when we did approve the strategic plan, we had allocated funds because we recognized that as a council we identified a certain quite a few initiatives, priorities to be able to strategically move the city forward, and that was going to take funds. We identified funds, set that aside. It's a number of those, or at least a couple of those things. The general plan update that was discussed, we talked about a vision plan, that the strategic plan being the first step, almost of more of a shorter term goals and objectives, but having a longer term 15, 20-year vision plan to provide overall just a bigger picture direction for the city, similar to what we used oftentimes the term of what was seen out in San Antonio 2020. We went through a process of both putting together a strategic plan. We're looking at doing the circulation element. We were looking at a number of different, this is a general plan update. So the recommendation that staff provided for council is let us take a step back and do a comprehensive communication strategy, communications plan that would then roll in some of these other bigger picture, future planning for the city, so that we're not overly exhausting our community on pulling them in to get feedback and such. So I make mention of that and provide some of that background because I think some of us were anticipated that what we were doing with the vision plan, general plan update, and one of those things that I also need to make mention of is in the idea of the vision plan, there was some allocation for branding strategy that we've been talking about for a number of years. So a few of us, I think, basically figured, okay, were those priorities and projects that really will help us propel our city forward, or to a certain degree on hold, so that we can figure out how we're going to best and most effectively communicate with the residents, the community. How are we going to be able to in an effective and efficient way, draw their input, insight, to be able to help us shape these visions and plan to be able to propel Santa Ana to the city that we know that it can be, and that in the positive direction that we're heading in. So I was somewhat, or I was actually surprised when I found out that some of those priorities and the funds that we had allocated for those projects had actually gone away because we had not yet implemented or executed on those. So I think essentially what this points to is we were planning on doing a retreat last month. the purpose of the retreat was to be able to identify some of those priorities so we can give clear direction to the city manager and staff. Some of these discoveries as we're looking at this budget and seeing that some of those priorities were actually priorities that then are now unfunded once again, just points to the fact that we really need to make sure to bring council back together to be clear on those priorities so we can give clear direction on how we want to fund things. When we did have, the last time that we approved the budget, we had given some identified certain areas where if there was some type of surplus, if you will, where we would be able to go back and fund certain needs. One of those we did come back to in code enforcement, but there were a number of others that we had also identified. So overall, what I just want to make sure that we're mindful of is that as we're planning and budgeting, that the forecasts indicate that we might be able to count on some funds in addition to what we're looking at for the proposed budget in the fall. And it would be incumbent upon us to be able to come back, look at what some of the priorities that we have identified before, some of the unfunded initiatives or projects, as well as anything that council might be able to identify as a more pressing item or area to focus, so that we can again give clear direction and on those potential funds. So that's just kind of just a general overview and feedback there that I'm hoping that you'll be able to come back to us, Mr. City Manager, to factor those points, factor in those points, so that you can give us some thoughts as to how we would be able to address some of those concerns. With regard to the wayfinding, just one of the items that Councilmember Martinez mentioned, and that shortfall that was identified in that, or that was pointed out in the committee, the Finance Committee. Can you speak to that specifically? Because that's been one of those things that we've been talking about for some time. Yes. There's some traction, but want to make sure that we are able to follow through.
Yes, thank you so much, and I 100% am so glad that you brought that up, because we need to finish that. And I was a little frustrated because we estimated 400,000, and now we spent a lot of time. I think the 150,000. What I would like to do is maybe just put that on a council agenda with the program, and then we can you can all vote on that, and we can get that done. As far as the other question, Councilman Benavides, I do want to let everybody know that we had a great year last year. There was money budgeted for. The general plan was $2.1 million. I think economic development was $500,000. There was some other monies in there. And as you know, the economic development strategy, we had a firm here selected in Santa Ana. I think they're doing it for about $150,000. So we saved some money there. We have a new planning and building director who may have some ideas. But at the end of the day, all that money that went into the reserve is still in the reserve. It's still money. It's like putting money in the bank. And then the additional $10 to $12 million will be available, and all the comments that you're making in the council, that'll all be in front of you. We'll have I'm recommending a prioritization just on that money, because this is a once in a few years opportunity, because that's money that we didn't expect, and we're not going to have that every year as we become better at our budgeting and add positions. So it's really critical that when that money is expended in September, October, $10 or $12 million, that everybody's satisfied, so we don't have to come back a year from now and say, what happened to my $2 million, what happened to my $1 million, everybody completely know where the money's at. Thank you.
Appreciate that feedback, and we do need to begin that process, though, for us to be able to be a part of those policy decisions prior to needing to expend those funds. Obviously, the more prepared we are to be able to hash that out, the better you'll be able to execute on that. Within that, just as a comment, final comment from my end, Mr. White, I appreciate the time and effort that you've taken to be able to advocate for your neighborhood park. The overall issue and need to improve our parks, deferred maintenance, has been an ongoing discussion that we've had. Wish that it were the case where Riverview was the only one, but unfortunately we do have quite a significant need throughout the city. But just the issue of deferred maintenance as a whole is something that I think is one of those priorities that we need to take up and need to figure out how we're going to address improving our parks for all our neighbors, and all our neighborhoods throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to call upon Mayor Pro Tem Vince Sarmiento, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot's been said, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible. I just want to begin by saying, sort of framing what we've been talking about in a different light than I guess we've seen in a long time. This is actually a very, very good conversation that we're having, because we rarely had these. I remember when we used to address budgets, they were done, I think, in a couple of public meetings, and there was no community outreach. There was no, outreach done to the community. People weren't going out to neighborhoods and talking to communities and asking people for their opinion. So, and again, we didn't have anything to spend. So I guess when you're talking about cutting services and letting people go, that's not a fun conversation to have. But nonetheless, I think the path that we're on is a very good one. And I think we should reflect for a moment and say, we're in a much better place, not just economically because we have funds available, but we're in a much better place because I think our process is evolving. It's not perfect, as we've always said. It's not ideal, but I think the spirit is there. The effort and the intent to get out and outreach to the community is there. And I've seen it. We were at a meeting last week in my neighborhood. It wasn't as well attended as I would have liked, but there were people there asking some very good questions from that neighborhood and others. So I think as we evolve, we'll get better at outreach, we'll have a better attendance. But what I wanted to say is, I certainly thank all those who participated from the public, staff that's made the information available and as open as possible, and I think it makes our job simpler but difficult at the same time, because now we do have to make some very difficult balancing decisions because there's a lot of interests that we need to consider. I did hear something that I don't want to, before I get there, I want to thank you for mentioning the deputy city manager position. And I think, look, to the extent that we have a person on your staff that's doing a very, very good job. He did an excellent job when he was with the finance department, now doing a good job for us on the 8th floor and with the city manager's office. I think that's a great thing. I think it's good to develop talent from the inside. I've always been a believer in that. But I do like the fact that you're going out on a search to look for a different level professional, and hopefully we'll, the pool will be robust. We'll be able to, find someone that's going to be helpful and serve a different purpose, because we do have different needs at that level. So thank you for that. What I did hear is about that labor negotiations manager. I think we all spoke about that. So I think I did hear some, not consensus, but some concern with maybe that position. So that's something maybe we can discuss. What I, want to do is at least introduce myself to Hassan, our new planning director, because nobody said welcome, Hassan. We're glad to have you aboard. Hopefully this meeting is not indicative of all our meetings. You'll see that we're a lot more fluid, I think, but I think more than anything, we're just glad to have you aboard, and we look forward to working with you, and welcome to the city. But given that, I do want to let and the staff that we do have some at least concerns on my end about the ability of our planning department moving forward, our planning and building department moving forward. I know that the staffing levels have been a little low, and it's been a function of us having to reduce in the past, but just the voluminous applications that we've received, and it's been really a function of the economy doing well, the health of the city, people having interest in wanting to invest and develop here in the city, which is a good problem to have. I mean, something contrary would be much worse, where we have a counter that's completely vacant and empty. So I think if we do see maybe that position go away with respect to the labor negotiator and decide to outsource that, maybe those funds could be directed towards planning and building, because I do see that that's been an issue, and I've received constituent phone calls on that, and I know my colleagues have as well. The other sort of priority area for me that may not be as robust as I'd like to see it is economic development. I know that for us, we talked about an economic advisory task force, one that's been created by the city manager's office, one that's been created now hopefully by the council and the wellness strategy. the whole idea is that, if we do have a city that's that's relevant and people want to invest in, let's go out and seek out anchor industries, folks that want to do business here and really market the city. I think one of the, main reasons that you came here, Mr. City Manager, at least, on my behalf, was because you were the ideal person to represent the face of the city when you go out and speak with different people who want to invest here. I want to see how we can capitalize on that. We're well positioned. It's a good time. It's a good moment. So, look, I think all of us, would be well served if we see about how we can maybe make some adjustments and increase the allocation for economic development. Because I think right now it's at $250,000. I think it should be a little healthier, a little bit more robust. Maybe we can increase there. And I know that one of the priorities in your proposal, or one of the line items on your proposal, was to eliminate the council liaison. Look, I'm good with it. I think that if it could go towards economic development rather than maybe one of the other options, maybe that's something that we can do. Joint use. I know I served on the committee with the school district, the joint committee with, I believe, Councilwoman Martinez and at that time Mayor Pro Tem Tinajero. This joint use idea has been around with us for a very long time. Problem was that the district just didn't have the funds available to meet us halfway. We were ready to go because it was such a priority of ours that we said, look, even though we don't have a lot of money, it's scarce, we still want to do it. So to the extent that I'm supportive of that, that's a very important thing. It's an old idea that we've had that we've been discussing for a long time. Unfortunately, the district just wasn't in a fiscal position to do it. And I believe Trustee Noji and Trustee Richardson were both on that, and they just both said, look, we think it's a good idea, we just don't have the money to do anything about that right now. So, look, my last point is on the cost of living adjustments for those friends of ours who are employees, people who've helped us get through the solvency question, the economic crisis that we went through. So I think that the city manager's proposal as a baseline proposal is a good one. I think that it shows good faith. I think it shows that we respect our employees, we appreciate and thank them for all the work that they've done and all the sacrifices that they've made previously. I don't know, and I guess that's where I want to make sure is that the only discomfort I have is to be able to lock ourselves in. I don't want to do that. I want to see if there's a little bit of flexibility. And my question has always been on the timing and on the procedure. So tonight, if we adopt, this will be considered the first reading, but by no means is the next meeting the final look at this. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, because we're doing good on our schedule. You can make changes tonight, and then and then it could be approved on June 16th. But at the end of the day, if it's changed there, then we could go to July 7th.
If some of the recommendations that you've heard tonight could be incorporated, let's say, the labor negotiator position.
What I was going to do is try and summarize to make sure that, if possible,
that would be perfect.
What I've got so far as a certainty would be to eliminate the labor administrator, to add $150,000 for economic development, and to also add $150,000 for wayfinding.
Quick question. Now,
Go ahead.
If we eliminate that position, I know I was wondering if at least part of that could go for Riverview, since, well, maybe like 50,000, just at least to start and then move forward. I know I talked to Gerardo earlier, and I asked him how much would it cost to at least look at the basketball courts. I know we typically don't do this, but I think I heard Councilmember Martinez in support of it, so I don't know if anybody else is. But, I know that in the fall we will have the opportunity to allocate more funds, but in the meantime, I don't know if part of that money can go there. I know everybody's probably going to want to spend it somewhere, but...
Right, and thank you, Councilwoman. I know I think it's a good comment. I think, look, again, I think you anticipated my comment, which was I'd love to give more support to South Main because, as we talk about a lot of investment in the downtown, we rarely talk about South Main and, the needs that they have. The good thing is that they're going to have a settlement and some funds, proceeds going from the settlement to them. But I think we still made some I think, directed some funds in the past to them, and I believe that's what was discussed when it came to unfunded previous allocations. And I appreciate Francisco's presentation on this, because one of the things that I make a suggestion about in the future is when we talk about revenues and costs and we're looking at the different columns, to make sure that when we're including in the revenue column monies that are just rolling over as a result of being unfunded allocations, if we could sort of segregate those out or identify those as part of the surplus, because they're not true. It's not a true revenue element. It really is an element of just something not being funded for whatever reason. We just maybe haven't settled on it, but it'll help us, at least for me, see that have we grown that much or have we grown to a lesser degree. It's just more accurate, I think, when it comes to identifying that. But I think that's one of the few things that I saw that we could improve, that we could
And
definitely
I just want to emphasize to the councilwoman that it's not that, it's pretty close. We'll be getting priorities in August, September, and making decisions in October. So I know Riverview will be a major topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, I have just a few other things to add, and then maybe a suggestion on how we proceed. Relative to the building and planning department, part of what I see is a bottleneck there right now. At times I know we have projects that want to come through the process, and they just can't go through the process as quickly as the demand out there right now requires. There's more development right now in the city. There's folks that are coming down into trying to get into the process, and we're having to push them back. So what I would like to request is that we look at the budget and look at 2 more positions to be augmented into the building and planning department, specifically on the planning side of the process. And I know we have a new building and planning director. What I would suggest is maybe allow him, along with staff, come back and tell us if that's a good idea and where that would be recommended. Yes, Ms. City Manager.
Mayor, thank you. I think that there's going to be a little bit of work that needs to be done there, to your point. And he just started, I think, yesterday. And but I really am confident in what you're saying, and I think if he can look at the flows and look at the revenue, he can come back anytime. That's a business operation, and as long as he can substantiate that the workload's there, he can come back in a week or 2 weeks. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of the budget, but we did it before as an action item. So I just want to, it may be more than 2, it may be 8 or 10, but they need help.
Well, I've got more comments, but Councilman Martinez?
Just Mr. Mayor, just add to, because I keep on making, and maybe I'll have them speak because they are our employees. Our clerk, just because no one else is mentioning that to put us for a recommendation. Maria, can you please tell me if you do need another position?
The position was requested in our budget presentation, but when considered with other requests, it wasn't included in the budget.
So, Mr. City Manager, if you just could add that again to your draft, and then, it's really up to the City Council if we want to move forward with the position. And Madam City Attorney, where are you without your positions, and were there any requests to the City Manager of infilling positions?
I can actually tell you that today I think that we're at a really good place within the department. We had a contract position that we had not filled. So we had a position that was unfilled. I did recently talk with the city manager about why I felt we needed to fill that position, and I understand that he signed the cert effective July 1st. So I think that we, for our department, are right back to where we started. The 2 that we lost through attrition have been replaced. We do have the 1 assistant city attorney in the medical marijuana arena. With the 7 lawsuits and things that are going on there, we had 1 position that was filled and $80,000 that was allocated. I would like to say that depending on how that process goes, we could come back mid-year, a couple months into the fiscal year, and ask that position be filled as a full-time. But that's really based on the need that's coming out of the medical marijuana regulation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. City Manager.
I do want to thank Maria and Sonia because we worked on this together. I do want to emphasize that one of the things I talked about as an option, council can decide differently, was to hire a temporary person and to bring that person on, see what they do, see what's needed, and then we would have a better definition. So we can do that right now within the current budget because we would work order departments for the public records request. But if the council wants to go in a different direction, we can do that. We just got to find out which position we're going to cut to compensate for the additional position.
Okay, what I would request on the two positions is basically, look, you said a week or two we could have a pretty good idea. I know the director just got on board. I also have very high expectations as to his background experience. And I know what I hear often from the community is just that they can't get through. Mater Dei is just one of the most recent examples where they've been trying to come to the counter for a long time, they can't get through. What I would suggest would be a 2-week.
We can, Mayor, to your point, we can put the two positions in now, have them work on that, and then you guys can decide on that on the 16th.
Well, I don't want to rush, and we've thrown a lot of things at you. What I would prefer, if you can do it, would be a 2-week continuance. Take all this input in. Councilmember Tinajero talked, and I agree with him very much about $220,000 a year. That's $440,000 in 2 years for a job that to me is cyclical. I know we can just pull it out, but I'd rather have you take all this input, come back with options. And look, we may not vote for all the options, but I would feel better about what we're doing. We can do it in 2 weeks, adopt it then, vote, the second reading on the first meeting of July, and I think have ourselves a better understanding of what we're doing, and I think an improved budget. So my motion would be for a 2-week continuance, for those reasons.
Second.
Okay, more comment?
No.
All right, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We've got a lot of work here in the next 2 weeks, everybody. Thank you for that. And now, Madam Clerk, what is next on our agenda? 75B. There's a public hearing, George. George Garcia, you said you wanted to speak earlier. Are you still here? So we waited him out. We waited out George Garcia. So 75B. There's a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution declaring a Phase 2 water shortage supply. It's a public hearing. I've opened it up to the public. There's no other speaker other than George Garcia. Do we need a staff presentation? And if not, I'll close the public hearing and call for the question. We have a motion? Do we have a second? Maybe second from our director on the water board? Sure. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are now going to recess and convene the Housing Authority. I would entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Boy, everybody's excited today. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Mayor?
Yes.
We might have had one item that was passed over. Fran, they were done together? Okay, great.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, Ms. City Manager. Now on the consent calendar I'm now on the orange, which is a successor agency meeting. I would entertain a motion on the consent calendar items 1 through 3.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 4, regular business calendar, long-range property management plan. I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. I think we have 2 more public comment, and then we're done. Dan Escamilla, followed by Michael Kabukian. Please go ahead, Dan.
Good evening, Mayor Polito, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Dan Escamilla. I'm a 14-year businessman at 888 West Santa Ana Boulevard. I have an administrative law and bail fugitive recovery practice there. I last spoke to you on November 18th, 2014, concerning the homeless issue. And I followed up on February 20th with a letter talking about a Reading chief of police quoted as saying, "The homeless people are drawn to the town by the services provided by the local charities." I want to address that issue here today. The question I'm posing is whether or not the feeding of the homeless at the Civic Center is necessary. Most of you know that the homeless are fed 3 times a day by local charities at the Civic Center. I don't think this is necessary because the county has a well-established program, CalFresh, which is easy to qualify for, convenient to manage, and benefits are issued through an EBT card and recharged electronically. So with this program, the religious and charitable institutions should focus on helping the homeless through providing them with treatment and rehabilitation, and not simply giving them a Band-Aid of breakfast, lunch, or dinner. By providing real assistance, they might be able to make a difference. I understand that they're well-intentioned people with good hearts, and I don't blame them. I'm an advocate for helping the homeless, but I'm not an advocate for feeding them at our Civic Center. The younger members of the charities are always proud to make some reference to their feeding of the homeless in their resumes and job interviews, but they don't consider the adverse effects. These are, drawing the people to the Orange County Civic Center. The charities and religious groups have a reputation here in California, which has the worst homeless problem in the nation, of being the most generous to the needy. The shelter in Laguna Beach, which houses the homeless, has been compared to summer camp with beds, showers, foods, and regularly scheduled shuttles to and from the beach. The effects of feeding the homeless in this area is food, wrappers, utensils, bottles, bags, and littering of local business properties in our Civic Center, and of course crime, including public urination and defecation. The most recent example was 45 minutes ago in front of my office. Our security cameras caught another homeless person peeing 5 feet from my front office door. This is a continuing problem. This happens several times a week. And, sometimes the police response is 2 hours to something like that because it's not a high priority issue. I'd like to reference the February 19th email that I sent out to the City Council. And by the way, the February 19th email contained an enclosure which I've provided to the city clerk for each of the members. It's a memorandum from the Chief Executive Officer of the county. The memo talks about the safety of the county employees in the Civic Center.
Yellow is the new red,
Yeah.
and now you're red. So please conclude. We have a time limit.
I'm sorry, this is my second time. Anyway, the bottom line
Well,
is...
it's more than my second time, but I missed
Yeah.
it, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you for understanding. The point is that we need more police officers. We had 400 when I started business here. We've got 300 now. That's part of the problem. And the other problem is that the city attorney needs to enforce nuisance laws against those feeding the homeless. I'm a law school graduate, and I can tell you that Penal Code 370, 372, and 373 apply. We can cite those people for creating a public nuisance, which is what they're doing. They're driving my employees away. They're blighting the city, and they're diminishing the quality of life here. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments. Michael? And may I ask, Dan, please contact the city attorney just so she can be in touch. She's sitting right here. You know where to find her, yes?
Yes, I do. And I also appreciate you touring the facilities. I know you're one of the people in front of that, and I do that.
You're welcome. Please, Michael.
Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, Michael Klubnikin. A wise man sees danger ahead and prepares for it. Those who don't heed the path are doomed to repeat it. Now, there's no reflection on you, but you are just one of 34 cities. You painted a very rosy picture, and you should be commended for your budget and your city manager. But you guys will suffer, like this young gentleman, he suffers the consequences of ramifications of other people. 21 years ago, one man, one department, one act. A treasurer invested in, gambled with an investment fund, brought a $5.4 billion agency to the ground. You say, how could that happen? Well, it wasn't done in secret. One guy gets the apple on a roadmap, but let me tell you, we're on that 21-year cycle, and I'll give you an example why there's so much corruption breeds a cancer of poverty. And here's an example. The Board of Supervisors has a legally restricted fund. It's an Irvine redevelopment, Irvine City, and a joint venture with Orange County. They dipped into that fund, a legally restricted fund, and gave a $131,000 payment to an old buddy to be a public guardian for 4 months, going to court record just 1.5 months. Now, if they could go into a legally restricted fund and do it in broad daylight with county council sitting there giving his approval, what do you think these knuckleheads are doing in secret? And I'm here to tell you, that bankruptcy cost 3,000 public servants their job, and they worked hard. They did not deserve to get an apple and a roadmap cut off at the knees because these knuckleheads didn't do their job. So I'm here to tell you, there's a squall on the horizon. I'm not trying to be an alarmist.
Michael,
You've heard me enough.
Please conclude. You're yellow.
Oh, I am?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize.
No worries.
Veins coming out of my...
No, the light is yellow, not you.
The yellow's a new red, so I got to...
So you got to conclude.
But it's not red yet, so I'm just here...
No, but it's already yellow.
But it's not red yet.
Yellow is red. We don't have a red anymore.
I thought
it goes from green to yellow.
Okay,
Thank you.
I apologize for my 3 cents.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to council. Yes, Madam Clerk? And I will ask first for the city manager's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Very brief. I know that it was mentioned earlier, but I'm very proud that we have a new planning and building director. I'm going to ask him to stand, Hassan Agani.
May you get him come to the mic and say hello.
Come and say a few words. And the only person I know that's been here 2 days and is already getting new positions in his budget.
He got 2 positions. He got Councilman Mesco to clap for him.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and the City Council. I'm very proud to be working for this beautiful, wonderful city, and I'm really eager to get started and responding to all of your requests and your direction. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let's go to council comment. Who wants to start? Which lady?
Whatever, Mayor, whatever's your pleasure.
Let's go with Councilman Romesco.
Thank you,
Next
Mayor.
time we'll go to you.
We'll alternate to keep it fair.
You got it.
I do have a report, want to report back on the LCFA meeting I attended last Thursday. The Bill AB 1217 was approved by the Assembly. Now it's going to be moving on to the Senate. One thing I do want to direct our city manager is to research any unintended consequences of this bill, because there has been a lot of opposition to it, especially in one of the districts, and I want to make sure that we're okay moving forward. And I'd like to thank staff for coming tonight and presenting our budget. I know it takes a lot of work. I'd like to thank Mr. Darrell for taking the time to come out tonight, and I hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you. Councilman Roman Reina, please.
Sure. As always, start off with being water-wise. As you've heard me say many, many times, we are definitely living in a desert. It just doesn't look like it, because that's how much water we're utilizing. So please be water-wise as we're moving forward. I also want to announce that please save the date, August 29th, downtown Santa Ana, 2nd annual 5K. I was able to post it on my Facebook, and I had over 300 people ready to register to vote. So I'm excited that a lot of residents are ready to participate and be physically fit. As always, shop Santa Ana. Father's Day is coming up, so you have a few weeks to make sure you show your love and support for father just as much as you love your mother. And of course, shop downtown Santa Ana, or Santa Ana as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Councilman Benavides, please.
Thank you, Councilman Reina. Don't hold your breath. I don't think many people shop for fathers, or at least not in comparison to Mother's Day. But still, definitely consider, if you're going to shop, support some dads and support local business here in the city of Santa Ana.
Don't elaborate.
I want to just thank all the members of the community who came out and spoke, both on a number of different variety of topics, wellness district, folks addressing our budget issues, priorities, and Mr. Escamilla, local businessman who came and spoke to address us on the issue of homelessness, which is a very real issue and concern here in Santa Ana and our Civic Center, both from the standpoint of that there's a real need, real felt need, and we as government, both city, county, really need to look at how we address the issue of just helping those that are in a dire situation to get back on their feet. Then there are those also impacts to local businesses, to those looking to visit our library, coming to visit our local government offices, that come across uncomfortable situations when they look at the amount of loitering and such negative impacts out there as well. So just as recently the city of Anaheim, city of Fullerton came together with the county to be able to look at establishing a comprehensive multi-service center for the homeless out in the city of Anaheim. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to, as a council, make that a priority for us, work with the county, our new supervisor for District 1 to be able to come up with solutions here locally as well, because I think we're even more impacted than other parts of the county, and they're being able to identify resources, make that a priority, make things happen. I think it's something that is important for us to be able to work on, make a priority to address as well. On another note, there are always exciting things going on in the city of Santa Ana. I want to ask our Director of Parks and Recreation if he would approach us. And prior to the very successful 5K that we had, prior to redoing the very successful 5K that we did last year, coming up at the end of August, we have another citywide event where we're going to be celebrating our nation's independence. I think this is our 4th annual, yes. I believe. Can you speak into, tell us a little bit more about that? It's just a few weeks, about 3-4 weeks away. Yes. I just want to make sure to get the message out there and have as many folks from our community come out and enjoy that time.
Yes.
So if you would, please.
It's on Saturday, July 4th, and it is from 4 to 9:30 p.m. It's an amazing event. Last year we had about 6,000 people come. People come with their picnic baskets, but they also are able to buy hot dogs and hamburgers, snow cones, ice cones, ice cream. They experience a kid zone with inflatables, sports. They have a fantastic opportunity to learn about our nation's history through the History Walk. That's provided with our great partnership with the community, and we have great support and involvement, but from both the police department and the fire department, keeping everything safe. We have live music. We have the information booths and decorations, and we also have an amazing fireworks show. It's 20 minutes long. It starts at 9 o'clock. When it's dark, and the fallout is in the lakes, so we're very safe, and people just love that. We have great music, live music, and it's an incredible team effort. The agency staff, recreation in particular, but the library's involved, maintenance staff is involved, and it's a great event, and it's a very family-oriented event. I hope everyone comes. Last year we had about 6,000 people. I think we're going to have more.
Thank you, Gerardo. I know we've been building on it every year, so definitely looking forward to celebrating out there with our community. Just want to encourage folks to begin to make plans to join us at Centennial Park for our 4th annual Independence Day, 4th of July celebration taking place on Saturday, July 4th. With that, have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Michelle Martinez, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And just before I lose my train of thought, I know you will be closing the meeting on behalf of 2 folks today. You'll be joining the meeting, and one is David Riendo, who passed away. It's been a week and a half, but he was with Keenan, and if I could just please, I'll just say a couple words now. When you close
please. But also, I want to mention that I'm also going to close. It'll be 3
Alan
people.
Smith.
Also in memory of Keith Gober, who was a friend of Councilmember Sal Tinajero, and he's going to say a few words in a moment. So just for the record, it's going to be David Rendiero, Gregory Allen Smith, and Keith Gober. And please talk about David, but I just want to say he was a friend of many of us, and he must have been very young. I mean, I can't believe this.
He was 46 years old.
46 years old, wow.
Yeah. And,
please go ahead.
It just breaks my heart. You know, I was with him at SCAG and had a great time as we were celebrating our 50th year anniversary, and in a great mood, in great shape. A week and a half ago on Wednesday, he passed away. He had an aneurysm. 46 years old. David's been in the business, whether it be with at the California League of Cities, and worked with many cities through Keenan for over a decade. And so it's for many of us electives, as our mayor mentioned, many of us knew David. He was a great person. I met him 5 years ago, and he when I first went to SCAG, and he introduced me and took me around, and was just somebody that was a good advisor and always gave me good pointers, but also always made me smile because he was very proud of the good work that we were all trying to do at SCAG and through the California League of Cities. And so, I certainly, I know his wife and his two daughters, and many people across California are still in shock. Because we were just with him, whether you were at the California contract cities, he was there having a great time with many of my colleagues throughout the Southeast Los Angeles area, and to know that 2 days later he passed away. So my condolences to his wife and his two daughters, and to the Keenan family that he's worked with for so many years. So thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to do that. I also, too, would like to wish everyone a happy Father's Day. And, I was at Nordstrom's this past weekend, and certainly a lot of the folks that were at the register were saying, yeah, we're still cleaning up for Mother's Day. This won't be a problem for Father's Day. They did say that. It was hilarious. But, Councilman Benavides does it. Unfortunately, women, the mothers get more love than the fathers. But I do want to wish all of you, an exception for my colleague Roman Reina, who doesn't have children like me, a very happy Father's Day. And as I've said in the past, I commend you for for being good fathers. Whether I see pictures on Facebook and how proud you guys are of your children, and how you're really a part of their lives, I just think that you guys are doing a fantastic job as fathers. So happy Father's Day to all of you. I also would like to welcome Hassan. Look forward to meeting you, and hopefully we get our planning department on track, and great things happen in the next couple of months. Not a couple of days, but a couple of months. I'll give you a break. I didn't give Fred a break. I told Fred to get on it as soon as he started. But I will give you a break. You have your hands full, but welcome. Heard a lot of positive things from a lot of my colleagues from Glendale, who I sit on SCAG, and they said, and staff that spoke very highly of you, Hassan. So we're very fortunate to have you here. I also briefly wanted to talk about, as we move forward with the water phase 2, and let the residents know, and I know our staff is going to do the best job to get this out on the water bill, but they will only be able to water their lawns Mondays and Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And we all need to continue to say that to our residents. Mondays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. will be the only time you will be able to water your lawn. Again, that is only Mondays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I also would like to welcome the 24-hour fitness at Main Place Mall. I had the opportunity to attend last week at the VIP gathering that they had, and let me tell you, that is the state-of-the-art facility that I've ever seen, and I've been a member of 24-hour fitness for 17 years. And let me tell you, it blew me away. It's probably one of the best facilities that they have around. If you're a resident in Santa Ana, they have a 1-month trial. Go hang out by the swimming pool on the deck. You can see the city place across the way, the park, or above ground where us that are basketball fans, they have the most amazing basketball court up there. It was incredible to just shoot around up there on Saturday. I had a great time, and I'm paying the additional $10 so I could go to that gym. Hopefully I don't have a lot of residents wanting to ask questions when I'm lifting weights or in the sauna, but I'm gonna. But I typically go early in the morning, so I doubt that will happen. But welcome to 24 Hour Fitness. Long overdue, and excited to have them here, and just look forward to going to that gym and just having a great time there. People always say that Disneyland is the most happiest place. I really believe 24 Hour Fitness is you could be very happy there as well. But with that being said, I also wanted to make mention about, and there was emails being transferred with our staff, and it certainly is not above us, it's still a process going through, but the cell towers in our parks. I know Councilman Benavides sent an email. I sent an email and just wanting to make sure the City of Los Angeles, that we follow through in what they're doing in regards to the seismic earthquake model that they've put in place for cell towers, wanting to make sure that they're secure and they're still available when an earthquake does happen. If you went to go see the movie, the earthquake movie, I think it was San Andreas, right? It was way over the top, right? The concern is not about people dying. The reality for us is not if, it's when, but making sure that our infrastructure is in place. That's going to be the problem for us here in Southern California. Very few people actually die in earthquakes. It is the infrastructure that devastates communities. And so if we are not prepared, and as I mentioned to our staff in the past in our committee meetings in regards to deferred maintenance of our assets, of our facilities, making sure that they're top notch, we're going to find ourselves in trouble, because it's not if, it's when, and we need to be prepared and making sure that our assets are intact, and any retrofits within the business, within our residents or business community as it pertains to historic homes as well. We need to move forward. I know the city of San Francisco has made huge strides, and so is Los Angeles, and we need to look at those models. But specifically for the cell towers, we need to make sure that we have some of that information within the contracts if we decide to move forward with cell towers in our parks. And then finally, I just want to invite our residents. We have a couple of regional workshops that are happening as it pertains to active transportation and transportation. SCAG, as we are updating our regional transportation plan, the Sustainables Community Strategy, we're on a tour of all 5 counties. That is including me as the vice president. I'm out there, all 5 counties, and we started off in El Centro. We're making our way throughout the 5 counties, and here in Orange County, we will be doing the workshop on Thursday, June 25th, between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. at OCTA. I'm not going to mention the other one because it's too far, but I do want to mention the one that we are having at the Orange County Transportation Authority. That's on Thursday, June 25th, from 12 to 2 p.m. And then as well, we are also through the Orange County Council of Governments and OCTA and the consultant, we are doing a Complete Streets for Orange County guide, and we have some amazing consultants out there, and we are also going to have a workshop on June 17th at the Orange County Transportation Authority from 12:30 to 2 p.m. So great things happening at the regional level as it pertains to transportation and active transportation, and wanting to engage people from everywhere, specifically in Orange County, but having a bottoms-up approach. So it's not a top-down, but a bottoms-up approach, and really trying to engage as many residents and businesses that are affected either by Complete Streets, what we will be doing here, providing a guide for Orange County and the SCAG and the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainables Community Strategy. And with that, have a great evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Salvatino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always make a joke that on Father's Day, we always have to remind people it's Father's Day. You know, can you get me a glass of water? Don't you know it's Father's Day today? But anyhow. But thank you for that, Councilmember Martinez. I appreciate it that you remembered. So I'll probably mention that when I get home and say, did you know that Father's Day is coming up? What are you getting me, you little heathens? Anyways, I'm just teasing. Anyways, first of all, I want to just let everyone know and congratulate all of our athletic baseball leagues. They're entering their playoffs. They're doing very well. They're really putting Santa Ana on the map. They've been doing that for 2 or 3 years now, so they're doing very well. Please wish them luck. They're going to be out in the parks. There's going to be people from other cities coming in because we are hosting some tournaments as well. I want to thank Mr. Niedermeyer for being here this evening and his tireless work with our youth soccer organizations, and congratulations on being a club. That's a huge, huge deal. So that just is a testament to your work and the level of play that you guys have. The graduations are coming up, and the Santa Ana School District has now invited us to attend graduations if we choose to, which is, there's a new leadership there, and they're very inviting, and so I think we should take them up on some of those. But congratulations to all our graduates who are coming out. I did have a level of sadness here. As many of you know, I went to Saddleback High School, went to McFadden Intermediate, Saddleback High School, and at McFadden Intermediate, I had the pleasure of meeting two twins, Keith and Ken Gober, and they were both lightning fast athletes, track stars in our school, and later we played football together in high school. Unfortunately, one of the twins, Keith Gober, passed away a couple weeks ago. He had a heart issue. And left behind two daughters, Keelan and Tawia, and his brother, of course, is also surviving him, and his mother, Debbie Gober. His cousin, who is very close with, she says that he's like a brother to him, or to her, Rochelle Gober, and his uncle, who really helped raise him, Alan Gober. So these individuals are people that are going through some sadness this evening. There will be a memorial for him at Fairhaven from 5 to 8 on Friday. And so for anyone watching out there who knows the Gober family, I encourage you to be there. But it's always sad when you have a person 44 years old, to pass suddenly like that. And so, especially when you have friends, and you know that you see them strong. And so, the one thing that Keith always was very proud of was his two little girls. And so, we just want to close in his memory tonight as well. And I thank you for that, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Mayor Pro Tem Vince Sarmiento, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we speak about loss, and I know that as the councilwoman's talking about David DiRienzo, I did have a chance to know David when I first came on the council, and he was one of the first people that started talking to me about stacked parking. If some of you will remember, yep. He had a building right next to the West Theater, I think, right on 4th, across the street from the Ronald Reagan building. And he was a very active person. He was everywhere. He was always very optimistic and positive. But more than anything, he believed in Santa Ana. He was somebody who saw the greatness, and and this was before a lot of the developments took off. But he was here early on, and he kept on talking about what a great place this is going to be. And sure enough, it was. And I think that we're all going to miss him because he was such a strong advocate for the city and all the things it could be. And I think he was looking at the why as well. He wanted to do an indoor gym there. So in any event, hopefully his soul will rest in peace, and our condolences and my condolences personally to his family as well. I want to tell Hassan that I know your former clerk in Glendale. He and I were both at the Kennedy School at Harvard, and we spent some time there. So I hear Glendale is a great city, good staff. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy Santa Ana just as much, hopefully more. We've got a great town, great residents, and you're coming here at the right moment. So welcome to you, and we look forward to working with you. I just wanted to thank the city manager and his staff on the budget. It's funny, when I was listening to everybody comment, I think it's easier to deal with a city budget when you have to cut, when you don't have money, because the choices are so limited. You really can't do much. There is no flexibility. There are no options. Your options are you have to let go of staff, you have to cut services, you have to wind things down. It's a very unfortunate process, but it's very simplistic if you break it down. When you have monies and there is a surplus and there are options and there are needs and deferred needs, it really does become troublesome. So thank you for being patient with us and seeing us go through this. Again, as I've told you before, this is very new to us. We haven't had to do this because we haven't had money haven't had money and resources to allocate. So we'll get there, and we thank you and your staff for your help. And I want to thank the councilwoman for spending so much time and not sleeping and dissecting every piece of information that is given to her. But she has to remember, you have to eat, exercise, and rest. I say those are the three things, so don't forget the rest. Finally, I just wanted to mention something about my colleague to my right, because he's much too novel when he talks about how well baseball teams are doing in town. You know, he has I think he has a baseball player, a professional baseball player in the making. He is an incredible young boy that I've been following, from since he was just a kid. I think he was maybe 5 years old when we first started on the council, and I've seen him evolve and develop, and now I see him on ESPN. I see that he's going to be on CBS Sports. He's going to be on the Major League Baseball Network, and he's a highly sought-after young baseball player, and that's Vincent Tinajero. And he's been recruited by Under Armour. He's an All-American with them. He's an All-American with Baseball Youth, and he's an All-American with the USSA. And so those, to somebody who's not real familiar with baseball like me, even I know those organizations. I mean, who doesn't know Under Armour? Who doesn't know, Baseball Youth, and how highly sought after they are? And so for them to be looking at a player this young who's 12, that means this kid's just got, amazing talent. So good work to you, and I don't think anybody needs to say Happy Father's Day, because Vincent is only as good and as excelling as the time that you've invested in him. And so, look, it's a testament to you and Jennifer and the good work that you guys have done with him. And his older brother, Sal Jr., is my commissioner, my youth commissioner. So, man, you're doing something right. So, you got to pat yourself on the back when nobody wants to say Happy Father's Day. Finally, just if you are blessed enough to have a father, give him a hug. Love them, appreciate every moment you have with them. I lost my father, 20 years ago, and I miss him every day. And so I know the mayor is blessed enough to have his father, and I've known him for many years, and he's a great gentleman. He's still very active and still very, doing very well. So that's a blessing. And so for those of us, up here, and I think most of us have lost our fathers up here, we just have to honor their memory and being good men and good people. So with that, I'll bid everybody a good night.
Thank you, and thank your Mayor Pro Tem for those comments about my father. I, very much cherish every moment, and I know as we have Father's Day coming up, hopefully those of us that have our fathers alive can be very thankful for that. Unfortunately, I remember all too well that day that you and I were there when your father passed away 20 years. I mean, I can't believe it's been 20 years. I remember the casket, I remember the church, I remember your mom, the whole situation. Those moments just are, forever engraved, I think, in our memories, and they define our lives. And unfortunately, today we have, David D'Arienzo, Gregory Allen Smith, and also Saltina Heller requested Keith Gober. So what I would ask of the clerk is if we can, please, send flowers, our condolences, some, certificate of recognition on behalf of all of us in their honor. And in particular, David really hits home because he is just so young. I mean, 46 years old. David Benavides sitting here right next to me. At first, I don't think realized who we were talking about. And he's shocked, like all of us are shocked. So, let's just be as kind to each other as we possibly can be and cherish every day and make the best of every moment, because something like David D'Arienzo at 46, who would ever think, who would ever know? So with that, we're adjourned to our next regularly scheduled meeting.